Chapter 270. After Fong Yu finished speaking, the dormitory was silent for a moment. Then, a loud roar erupted, scaring the people in the neighboring dormitory. Those who had heard the roar opened their doors curiously and were about to go over to ask when they saw the door close. What happened to the dormitory next door? Based on my extensive experience, there's an 80% chance they lost the team battle. The others nodded in agreement, feeling that this was the most likely reason. Listening further, there were no more roars. It probably wasn't a fight, so they dropped their curiosity and went back to their own matters. Meanwhile, in Fong Yu's dormitory, Fong Yu hurriedly shut the door after his roommates roared in unison. "Shoo!" Fong Yu motioned for his roommates to stop shouting. "It's a secret." Before he could finish, Fong Yu was lifted up by his 3 roommates. "That's too mean." "Fong Zhao, it's really Fong Zhao. Where's the autograph? Where's the photo? You really know how to hold it in. If it were me, I would have let the whole school know." After a long time, Fong Yu was released. After catching his breath, he explained, "My parents said I can't cause trouble for Brother Zhao. I actually didn't intend to say anything. Only you guys know. Don't tell anyone." "Fine, use something to shut our mouths. I'm not picky. Just 8 or 10 autograph cards or something will do," one of them said with a sinister smile. "Hand over the concert tickets." Right. We will definitely keep it a secret, but since we are in the same dormitory, Fong Yu, you have to help us out too. Hand over the good stuff." Fong Yu smiled helplessly. "All right, I'll help. I'll try my best." The concert tickets were already sold out. Fong Yu couldn't really get Fong Zhao to buy tickets for his roommates. The other 3 were just joking. Even if Fong Yu agreed, they would be too embarrassed to take such expensive tickets. They weren't Fong Zhao's relatives, so how could they be so thick-skinned as to ask for them? However, he definitely had to get more autographs and photos from Fong Yu. If Fong Zhao brought Fong Yu out to play games with his alternate account, it would be even better if he could call them along. Yanbei Retirement Facility. Great-grandfather Fong had gone out to brag about the concert tickets Fong Zhao had booked for him after dinner. He felt bad if he didn't brag. When he was at home, he would go online every day and watch the few commercials that Fong Zhao had endorsed. He had never thought that commercials were so good. Whenever he went out, he would brag. There were also billboards in the retirement facility. When Fong Zhao went out for a stroll, great-grandfather Fong would sit in the pavilion closest to the billboards and chat with people. Whenever he saw an advertisement for Fong Zhao, he would flaunt it. "Look, that's my little great-grandson, Fong Zhao. He gave up martial arts for his studies. Instead of being a soldier, he wants to walk the artistic path. I can't even stop him. I'm so worried. He's going to be holding a concert at Golden Something Hall soon. Hey, don't go. Let me show you the concert tickets I just received. Let me show you his memes." Great-grandfather Fong had gone to Baiji Military District to stay for half a year, and the people in the retirement facility were all very envious. This year, there were a few seniors in the retirement facility whose grandchildren or great-grandchildren had been transferred to Planet Baiji, but their military rank was not high enough, so they were temporarily unable to bring family members over. They still had to endure. Not everyone could enjoy the special privileges that Fong Zhao had. After all, Fong Zhao was the discoverer of grade A power, or he could enjoy certain privileges but others could not. However, if Fong Zhao had chosen to stay in Baiji Military District, given his military rank, he would have been able to bring family members over. A few days ago, great-grandfather and great-grandmother Fong had found out that Fong Zhao was going to hold the first major concert of his solo career and had wanted to contribute. They had bought a few streaming tickets, keeping one for themselves and giving the rest to people in the retirement facility. They had not expected that Fong Zhao would book live tickets for them. When the time came, great-grandfather and great-grandmother Fong would attend the concert with Fong Yu and his family. Thus, great-grandfather and great-grandmother Fong gave away the streaming tickets they had originally reserved for themselves. A portion of the tickets Silver Wing had reserved for internal members was given to Fong Zhao, and Fong Zhao gave them away himself. Besides the few people from the Fong family, there were also Muzhou's Su Ho, Su Feng, and other close friends. After the interview ended and the commercial was shot, Fang Zhao focused all his attention on preparing for the concert. In terms of performance, Fang Zhao would be working with a symphony orchestra under Silver Wing. They were all professionals and not a ragtag band. When Polar Light had debuted the 100-Year Period of Destruction series, they had looked for them. However, during the recording of the 100-Year Period of Destruction series, Pang Pusong had been in charge of the harmonies, but this time, Pang Pusong had not been included. Even if there had been harmonies, it had been the orchestra's own people. Polar Light had wanted to highlight the individual, but this time, it was different. However, just as Fang Zhao and the orchestra were busy practicing, the person in charge of the concert from Silver Wing came looking for them and explained their difficulties. Fang Zhao's first concert was very important to the company, and there were many things that needed to be taken care of. However, Silver Wing was, after all, a comprehensive entertainment company. Other aspects might be fine, but in this aspect, they might not be able to be thorough. Even if they hired some experienced people to guide them, what if? Therefore, the other party's intention was that they would do their best to make arrangements, but as the main character of the concert, Fang Zhao still had to handle his own matters. It would be better to consult some experienced seniors. Actually, Fang Zhao had also considered this. The first person that came to mind was Xue Jing, this senior in the music industry. However, Xue Jing was in Huangzhou and had a few important meetings to attend. During the previous call, Xue Jing had said that he would be back in Yenzhou in about 10 days. If there were any questions, he would answer them one by one. If it was urgent, he could contact Fang Zhao directly. However, Fang Zhao did not disturb Xue Jing. After all, Xue Jing was getting on in years, and rushing to meetings was tiring. It was only 10 days, so he could wait. But now that he had heard the person from Silver Wing mention it again, Fang Zhao thought about it. Since Xue Jing had not returned yet, he could still seek advice from others. Seniors that he was not familiar with might not be able to make plans sincerely, but other than Xue Jing, Fang Zhao actually knew a senior with a rather high status in Yenzhou, Ming Song. So that afternoon, after Fang Zhao came out of the practice room, he checked the schedule at the Qian Academy of Music and found out that Ming Song had no classes or meetings for the next 2 days, so he gave Ming Song a call. Ming Song was at home talking to Ming Yi. The doctor had said that communicating with Ming Yi was good for the child's recovery, so Ming Song stayed at home to talk to Ming Yi. The phone rang. Ming Song saw that it was Fang Zhao and hurriedly answered, a smile appearing on his face. Fang Zhao. Teacher Ming, are you home now? Are you free? I'll drop by for a visit. Although Ming Song was no longer the principal of Qian Academy of Music, he still gave lectures from time to time. Given Fang Zhao's current status, calling Ming Song teacher was not wrong. Hearing this, Ming Song's smile widened. Yes, yes, yes. What visit? That's too polite. Are you nearby now? Quick, come over. Ming Song's wife, Su Tong, came out with a plate of fruit. She picked a piece and handed it to Ming Yi, then asked Ming Song, "Who is it?" Over the past year, the couple had received a marked increase in calls. Even people they hadn't been in touch for years were now calling. Everyone knew that Ming Ye's illness had improved and was on the verge of a full recovery. Now that the couple had pulled themselves together, their positions would definitely continue to rise, and their authority would also increase. Ming Song had resigned as principal of Qian Academy of Music because of his son, Ming Yi, but now that Ming Ye's condition had improved, he might be promoted again during the next change of principal. Furthermore, given Ming Song's age, even if he couldn't become president of the Yenzhou Music Association in the short term, he would surely win it in the future. In the past, when the family had been in dire straits, some people had run far away. Now that the couple was on the rise, they were sticking close to Ming Song. That was why Su Tong was unhappy. Hearing his wife's question, Ming Song smiled happily. Fang Zhao probably wants to come because he has some questions about the concert. Hearing it was Fang Zhao, Su Tong's furrowed brows relaxed. Good, good, good. He has a chauffeur? Does he have a bodyguard? Forget it, prepare more. It's getting late. Let's have them stay for dinner. Hey, what does Fang Zhao like to eat? I don't know. You don't even know? What kind of teacher are you? Ming Song felt helpless. What does this have to do with being a teacher? The time I spend with Feng Zhao is limited. At most, we keep in touch online. After Feng Zhao returned from military service, I only went to Feng Zhao's house once. It was because Feng Zhao's schedule was tight, so I only stayed for half an hour. I didn't want Feng Zhao to be held up, so I left in a hurry. Young people are in their prime. We can't let them waste time on unnecessary social engagements. If that happens, we won't be repaying a debt of gratitude but holding him back. You're full of excuses. Su Tong didn't waste any more time with Ming Song. He ordered a lot of food from the online farmer's market. Half an hour later, Feng Zhao arrived, carrying a box of Muzhou's specialties. These were Dongshan Farm's newly harvested goods. They had arrived in the mail yesterday. Since Feng Zhao had come to Ming Song's place today, he had brought his share. Ming Song didn't say anything along the lines of, "You came, you didn't have to bring gifts." But after accepting the box, he told Feng Zhao, "Don't bring so much next time." Wasn't it tiring to carry such a big box? Feng Zhao had almost dropped the box when he had tried to catch it. Feng Zhao smiled in acknowledgement. He looked past Ming Song and his wife and saw Ming Yi standing a short distance away. The little fellow recognized Feng Zhao. His eyes were filled with delight and curiosity. Ming Yi was 15 years old, but because he had contracted the Hull virus in the past, which had affected his physical development, he looked much younger than his peers. This was just a delay in development caused by the virus. As the disease eased, Ming Yi would return to normal. During the past 2 years of treatment, he had grown noticeably taller. 2 years ago, he would have looked even smaller. Chapter 271. Looks like he's almost done, Feng Zhao said. Just a little bit more. I've run into some problems, but they said it'll be solved in half a year. I'll be fully recovered in the next 3 to 5 years. At the mention of Ming Ye's illness, Ming Song and his wife's faces were glowing. The heavy stone that had been weighing down on their hearts had long since been lifted. Feng Zhao hadn't asked about Ming Ye's treatment in detail because everyone had been busy. Now that he was here, it was a good opportunity to learn more. He was curious, but the treatment hadn't been made public. Feng Zhao had only learned about it from medical journals. But that was from a researcher's point of view. Now he was learning about the treatment from Ming Song and his wife. Feng Zhao checked the time and realized it was time for dinner. Xiao Feng, did you bring a driver? Call him up for dinner. We don't have that many rules here, Su Tong said warmly. Su Tong said enthusiastically, after dinner, I'll ask Mr. Ming to tell you what you need to pay attention to in the concert. Yan Biao and Zui tried their best to minimize their presence, especially Yan Biao. Zui said he looked like a gangster and would scare kids. Yan Biao would have just rolled his eyes and ignored Zui, but now he seemed restrained. After dinner, Yan Biao and Zui sat in the living room. Su Tong's warm welcome made their faces stiff. Tea? Or juice? Su Tong asked. No, we'll just have some warm water and help ourselves. You go ahead, we'll wait here, Zui said hurriedly. Seeing how uncomfortable Yan Biao and Zui were, Su Tong didn't insist. He brought Ming Yi into the room to talk. Only Yan Biao and Zui were left in the living room. They finally relaxed. They could be at ease with rough men or shrewd businessmen, but in a home with a strong artistic atmosphere, they felt a little restrained. They didn't even dare raise their voices. Hey Zui, can I ask you something? Yan Biao lowered his voice, curiosity written all over his face. What? That Ming Yi, Professor Ming's son, what kind of illness did he get from listening to boss's music? You can say yes, but you can also say no. Yes means yes, no means no. What do you mean? Yan Biao was dissatisfied. For example, Boss's 100-year period of destruction series was like a key that opened the door. It allowed the research team to find the direction of treatment. The rest is up to the research team. As long as we find the right direction and grasp the key points, we don't have to listen to those movements anymore. It's easy to say. If you don't find the right direction, no matter how much time, manpower, and financial resources you spend, it will all be in vain. Yan Biao finally understood why this couple treated Feng Zhao so well. Ever since they had stepped through the door, Ming Song and his wife had not stopped smiling. But thinking about it, if Yen Biao encountered this kind of situation, he would also do the same. Yen Biao and Zui were gossiping in the living room. In the study, Ming Song was telling Fong Zhao about things to take note of during the concert. When it came to concerts, Ming Song was also helpless. Nowadays, people in the upper echelons of the music industry despise the tackiness of money, yet they still wanted the performers to be as high-end as possible, especially those extremely expensive concert halls with limited ticket sales. It seemed like only those kinds of venues could match their high standards of artistry. In other words, people in the upper echelons of the music industry only recognized the 3 great music halls in Yenzhou. Even places like Golden Age Music Hall, where you could get a performance as long as you threw in money, would be criticized for being tacky and full of money, but they still recognized it. This was a big characteristic of the current music industry, a big bad habit. Ming Song's power was limited. Even if he had objections, he could only adapt to these bad rules. Ming Song had also told Fong Zhao about these things. If he couldn't change it, he had to obey the rules first. Ming Song had also mentioned a few details that were easy to overlook during the concert. After some thought, Ming Song said, "How about this? Wait a moment, I'll check it out. You've never been to a concert held by the 3 great music halls, so no matter how much I tell you, you might not have a clear understanding of them. I'll take you to one, and you'll understand. I have quite a few tickets on hand, so I'll take you to one." After all, Ming Song had been the former principal of Qian Academy of Music and the current vice president of the Yenzhou Music Association. People of Ming Song's status would always receive some invitations. Receiving concert tickets was a common occurrence. Ming Song and his wife were usually invited, but because of Ming Ye's illness, other than a few of the more important concerts, the couple had declined everything else. Even if they went, only one of them would go, while the other stayed at home to take care of Ming Yi. After all, the tickets had been delivered. Whether to go or not was up to them. Fong Zhao watched Ming Song pick and choose. A few young musicians with some reputation in Yenzhou had been tossed aside by Ming Song. Sensing Fong Zhao's doubt, Ming Song explained, "You can't trust the information online. You've seen a lot at an entertainment company like Silver Wing, so you should know that as long as the backing team is strong, black can be white." What Ming Song meant was that some of these people only looked like they were capable, but the team behind them had exaggerated them. There was no value in checking them out, and it was a waste of time. Too many people only see concerts at the 3 major music halls as a necessary process, a springboard to climb up the ladder. I'm not saying that's completely wrong. That's the way things are, but if even the work is half-hearted or if there's someone behind the scenes, the utilitarian nature of the work is too strong, and the original intention is forgotten, then I'm really disappointed. Ming Song sighed. People like them could tell from the sound of the work whether or not it was done painstakingly. "Oh, I got it. Hawen, this student is quite capable. He's also very talented when it comes to arranging. The quality of the concert should be pretty good." Ming Song pointed to the 2 electronic tickets and said to Fong Zhao, "This is a student I used to teach, and also taught by Andy Su. He's from the arrangement department. He might not have much talent when it comes to composing, but he's very good at arranging." Fong Zhao checked the time. It was the night after tomorrow. "Do you have time?" Ming Song asked. "Yes," Fong Zhao replied. If there wasn't anything urgent, he would definitely spare some time on the night after tomorrow to attend the concert Ming Song had chosen. After making the decision, Ming Song asked his wife, Su Tong, to transfer Su Tong's electronic ticket to Fong Zhao. "The medical team will be here to do a checkup on Xiao Yi the day after tomorrow. She's staying at home, so I'll go with you." Ming Song chuckled. "It's just a weekly checkup. It's fine. She had a meeting last week, so I was the one keeping watch. This time, it's her turn to stay at home. We'll go to the concert together." Su Tong had no objections. She even asked Fong Zhao if one concert was enough. She would transfer all the other tickets. Ming Song stopped her. "There's no need to see many of them. It might affect your performance. When I have time, I'll take a closer look and transfer them to him." Su Tong thought it made sense, so she only transferred Ha Wen's concert tickets. On the day of Ha Wen's concert, on the way to Golden Age, Ming Song told Fong Zhao's about Ha Wen's experience. Ha Wen's performance at the Music Palace is a huge step forward in his musical career. He has been preparing for this concert for 20 years in Hall Number 1. Ha Wen was already in his 50s. Compared to many of his graduating juniors, he had been holding his first important concert much later. In fact, not long after Ha Wen graduated, he had started preparing for his own concert. If things had gone smoothly, he would have held his first concert in the first hall of Golden Age 5 years after graduation. However, things did not go as planned. At the time, Ha Wen's family's company had been in a crisis, so he hadn't had the energy or financial resources to put on a concert. Those had been Ha Wen's toughest years, but he had pulled through. That was why he had the concert today. Ha Wen's musical style is completely different from yours. He leans more towards the lyrical genre, and the emotions he expresses are more exquisite. His path is different from yours. You can use him as a reference and learn from his experience, Ming Song said. After arriving at the venue, Ming Song gave Fong Zhao a rundown of the details from the entrance all the way to Hall 1. Fong Zhao's first concert had been prepared by Silver Wing, so he didn't have to worry about a lot of things. But what about in the future? What if Fong Zhao left Silver Wing and went solo? The more he understood, the easier it would be. So Ming Song gave Fong Zhao a rundown of things to take note of. Fong Zhao listened attentively, committing every detail to memory. Sometimes, a careless mistake could change people's impression of you. Now is not the time for Fong Zhao to put on airs. He couldn't afford to offend the old veterans of the music industry who had been invited. After entering the venue, Fong Zhao sat down according to the seat number on his ticket. There was a music list on his seat. It was the size of an A5 and very thin. It looked like paper, but when he opened it up, he saw an electronic screen with the names of the 10 songs and an introduction by Ha Wen. Fong Zhao also noticed that each of the 10 songs was marked with a hollow circle. He knew what this symbol meant. It meant that the copyright had not been sold. If the copyright had been sold, it would have been marked with a solid circle. There were still some whispers in the concert hall, but after the official start of the concert, it quieted down. Ha Wen didn't look old. After all, people in the new era lived in their 50s. In the old era, he was only 30. However, he was a little chubby and looked very modest. Perhaps because of his personal experiences, he was more at ease and he gave off a good first impression. After the opening thank you speech, the first song was a nursery rhyme from the founding era that Ha Wen had adapted. He played it on the harmonica. The harmonica was a niche instrument in the new era, but when combined with this nursery rhyme, the melody was melodious, pure, and warm. After the first song, there were rearrangements of violin, flute, classical guitar, and other instruments for solo or ensemble performances. For people in their line of work, music was the best way to express themselves. When they presented their own works, they also conveyed their own emotions. And people with a deep foundation could hear the resonance between the music and the emotions without even looking at the detailed introduction. There was a break between each song to introduce the background of the composition and what the composer wanted to tell the audience. Fong Zhao understood these procedures in advance. The 10th and final song of the concert came to an end. On stage, the backdrop was a deep blue. Metallic specks of light, and light flowed like waves. The stage image served as a contrast to the atmosphere. The 10th song was a piano piece played by Ha Wen himself. It was adapted from a well-known composer from 200 years ago. Fong Zhao had heard Nadawazi play it on an electric guitar before. The original song was cheerful and lively, while the electric guitar version was flamboyant and uninhibited. This song was different from the previous two. On stage, Ha Wen was very focused. The melody was soothing, but it was expressing a deeper and longer emotion. The original song was over 4 minutes long, but the piano variation was 8 minutes long. It was almost twice as long, but it didn't seem cumbersome. Instead, it expressed the emotions more vividly. It was as if time had converged into a lake. Gusts of wind blew, rippling the hearts of the people. The occasional bubble was filled with the sounds of time.
Prosperity has fallen.
Never forget your original heart. Never let go of the past. Beautiful forever. This wasn't the best version of the famous song Feng Zhao had ever heard, but it still ranked in the top 3. It was amazing. Without a doubt, this was a high-quality variation. No wonder Ming Song had recommended it. To be able to adapt a famous song from 200 years ago to this level, there was no need to doubt Hawen's ability. His love for music could also be seen in the work. Just as Ming Song had said, even though Hawen had encountered some bad things in the past, had endured more pressure than most people could endure, had experienced ups and downs, had gone from rich to poor to rich again, and had seen the cruelty of reality, he still loved life and music. It was rare. Feng Zhao smiled as he thought of something. He knew why Ming Song had chosen Hawen's concert and brought him here. Hawen indeed had the ability. Actually, not all of the people who could perform here were just that. There were many geniuses, but in the end, Ming Song had still chosen Hawen's concert and brought Feng Zhao here personally. Actually, Ming Song was tactfully telling Feng Zhao not to be blinded by his current popularity and profits. The entertainment circle was fickle and changed too quickly. No one knew what the next moment would bring. Would it be quiet, or would it be even more glorious? No one could guarantee it. It would be best if the concert in August was a success, but if it wasn't, there was no need to be discouraged. Just look at Senior Hawen. He was already in his 50s, but hadn't he endured it step by step? The truth was as Feng Zhao had expected. Ming Song was worried that Feng Zhao would be under too much pressure. After all, Silver Wing was a commercial company. Profits were the most important. Other aspects might not be taken into consideration. The attention of the media, the invisible pressure exerted by the management companies, the evaluation of the public, all of these could affect his development as a person. Chapter 272. After the concert ended, Ming Song didn't leave immediately. He wanted to introduce Feng Zhao and Hawen to each other. This would benefit both Feng Zhao and Hawen. Teacher Ming? Hawen hurried over. Ming Song and his wife had taught him. Before sending out the invitation, Hawen had known Ming Ye's checkup time. It happened once a week, and the concert happened to be on the same day. He had thought Ming Song would stay at home to watch over Ming Ye. He hadn't expected Ming Song to show up. Hawen had seen Ming Song's hardships over the past decade. He had helped Ming Song, but at the time, he had been at a low point and hadn't been able to help much. Later, when he had finally overcome the crisis and wanted to help Ming Song again, he had heard that a cure had been found. He was happy for Ming Song. Hawen had guessed that Ming Song wouldn't be attending because of Ming Ye. He had been a little disappointed, but he was a father of 2 and could empathize with Ming Song. He had no complaints. Besides his own talent, Ming Song's tutelage had been very important at Qian Academy of Music. Even though Ming Song had stopped teaching, they had kept in touch. Every conversation had benefited Hawen. He had been able to sit in front of the piano again thanks to Ming Song's encouragement. Hawen was very excited to hear that Ming Song would be there. He pushed aside other matters and rushed over. After Ming Song introduced Feng Zhao, Hawen smiled and said, "I know you. You are a very impressive junior." Since they were both from Qian Academy of Music, calling Feng Zhao Jr. sounded very friendly. His words just now were not a compliment out of respect for Ming Song, but because he truly admired him. The style of music was different, but the foundation of the composer could still be heard from the music. In Hawen's opinion, Feng Zhao, who was only in his 20s, had achieved so much and was not from an artistic family, which was already very impressive. "Are you done with your work? We'll just wait here for you. We'll talk later." Ming Song waved at Hawen, signaling for Hawen to get back to his own business. Hawen didn't argue with Ming Song. Even though the concert was over, there were still many matters that required his attention. "Then Teacher Ming and Junior Feng can have some tea here." Hawen got someone to bring Ming Song and Feng Zhao to a lounge. They couldn't just stand there and wait. After Hawen left, Ming Song explained to Feng Zhao, after the concert, he still has to send off his old classmates, teachers, and friends who came to support him. There are also some people who are interested in purchasing the music rights. I reckon that the negotiations will take a little longer, but even if the negotiations don't go well, it won't take more than an hour. Let's chat over there. Sitting down in the lounge, Ming Song continued, "You're lucky. You signed with Silver Wing, so your management company will arrange for your team to socialize. But you can't just leave everything to the team behind you. There are some social engagements that you have to personally attend." Ming Song was reminding Feng Zhao. Although Feng Zhao appeared to be very popular, he did not have a solid background. He was different from those who came from prestigious families. Some things could not be completely pinned on others. Some people were arrogant, but they had the right to be arrogant. Feng Zhao had not reached that stage yet. A student had once told Ming Song that those who came from the grassroots had indeed endured more pressure than others. Sometimes, if you wanted to stand out, you couldn't rely on your father, so you could only put your life on the line. Although Feng Zhao had come from a slightly inferior background, he had the ability and luck. His path had been smooth, and he had not needed to put his life on the line. Recalling Feng Zhao's experiences after graduation, Ming Song could not help but sigh at Feng Zhao's good luck. What he did not know was that Feng Zhao had also gone through a period of desperation, and it had been more than 100 years of hell. Yes, Feng Zhao's current body had been strengthened by the strange experiences he had undergone during his rebirth, but it was the difficult 100 years during the period of destruction of his past life that had allowed him to become the Feng Zhao people saw today. If it had been anyone else, even if they had been given a golden finger, they might not have been able to do what Feng Zhao had done. The experiences of his past life had forged the Feng Zhao he was now. What others saw as good luck was an unspeakable sacrifice. As for Ming Song's worries, they were unnecessary. Feng Zhao was very strong in terms of mental fortitude and attitude, and Feng Zhao was not the kind of person with low IQ and EQ. After about 40 minutes, Hawen hurried back, unable to conceal the joy on his face. He was very excited. The copyright had probably sold well and received high reviews from industry insiders. This was the first concert of his life. This was the first step he had taken, and he could finally feel at ease. "Seems like the results are not bad," Ming Song said with a smile. He had already received some reviews of Ha Wen's concert from a few chat groups. On the whole, it had been pretty good. "Haha, it's not bad, not bad." Ha Wen's slightly round face was smiling so widely that his eyes had turned into slits. Ming Song once again formally introduced both parties and said to Feng Zhao, "If you have any questions about arrangement, you can look for him. Right, I'm not as good as you, Junior Feng, but arrangement is my profession. Although I can't compare to the teachers at Chimu, if you have any questions, feel free to ask." Oh, I almost forgot. We exchanged contact numbers. "You are about to start your concert, so if you need any help, don't hesitate to ask," Hawen said. Hawen understood that although Feng Zhao was still a newcomer in the music industry, no one dared to look down on him. He had seen the news a few days ago. Someone who had not even started his first concert had garnered so much attention and popularity. Interacting more would be beneficial to both parties. The three of them chatted in the lounge of the music hall for another hour. It had been a long time since Ming Song had performed here, so all the suggestions he could give were from his own point of view. As for Ha Wen, who had just finished a concert, his suggestions were more practical and more suitable for Feng Zhao. That night, after returning from Golden Age Music Hall, Feng Zhao sorted out the suggestions he had received from Ming Song and Ha Wen and recorded them in his notebook. August was a concert, but time passed in a flash. Feng Zhao still valued his first concert. Just as Ming Song had said, one could be dissatisfied with the rules of the music industry, but before one had the ability to change them, one could only adapt. In the new era, for people in the music industry, their first concert at one of the three major music halls was like an important test in life. As for old Master Xuejing, after returning from Huangzhou, he had started helping Feng Zhao prepare for the concert. The old man was getting on in years and had limited energy, so he couldn't help much, but he had to show his attitude and let people in the music industry know, "I have high hopes for this kid. Don't purposely pick a fight." As for Ming Song, needless to say, everyone in Yenzhou's music industry knew that Ming Song was on Feng Zhao's side. Ming Song's attitude could be seen from Feng Zhao's debut with the 100-year period of destruction movement. Furthermore, Ming Song had brought Feng Zhao to Ha Wen's concert without any intention of hiding it. Thus, everyone in the industry knew that Xue Jing and Ming Song were escorting this newcomer Feng Zhao's first concert. As long as the quality of his work wasn't too bad, on account of these two, people wouldn't give too many bad reviews. Couldn't stand it? Jealous of Feng Zhao. Of course. But what was the point of being jealous? Before seeing the quality of Feng Zhao's work, people with opinions could only remain silent. Saying too much would only offend people and make themselves seem petty. There was no other benefit. Therefore, when some critics in the industry were interviewed, their evaluations of Feng Zhao, who was a member of the younger generation in the music industry, were rather conservative. Actually, they were holding back their trump cards. The moment Feng Zhao's debut failed, they would not hesitate to strike. Everything depended on quality. Even if he had the protection of Xue Jing and Ming Song, if his work was too bad, then he couldn't blame them for being merciless. Actually, many people doubted the quality of Feng Zhao's work. After all, he had been in the military for the past year, and the 10 songs he had prepared had all been composed during that time. Feng Zhao had also been on frequent missions during his military service. All in all, he hadn't had much time to compose, and this didn't even take into account the physical and mental fatigue from his missions. How could he come up with 10 high-quality works in such a limited time? There were also some people who had no intention of attending Feng Zhao's concert and bought tickets at high prices to get first-hand information. Days passed and August came. Feng Zhao didn't attend any more events, didn't play games, didn't accept interviews, and didn't do any live broadcasts. However, Fiery Bird's commercials were still around, and online chat emojis were still being flung around. Silver Wing's publicity team wasn't idle either. Therefore, even though Feng Zhao didn't attend any more events, his figure didn't fade from people's attention. Instead, people would still mention Feng Zhao's concert from time to time. The concert was scheduled for the first Saturday in August. The day before the concert, Feng Zhao was combing curly hair while video chatting with Xue Jing. Xue Jing was worried that Feng Zhao would be too nervous. He hadn't expected to see Feng Zhao combing curly hair's fur when the video call came. Seems like your attitude isn't bad. Very good. Keep it up. Rest early today and conserve your energy. Don't worry about me tomorrow. I will be going over with a few old friends. Xue Jing was very satisfied with Feng Zhao's current state. Seeing that Feng Zhao didn't need any guidance, he didn't say any more superfluous words. After exhorting Feng Zhao a few more times, he hung up. After the call ended, Feng Zhao removed a thin layer of dog fur from the comb, rolled it into a ball, and placed it in a box. This box was filled with curly hair's fur that had fallen off. In May, someone had approached Feng Zhao and wanted him to endorse a household cleaning robot, especially for families with pets. It could focus on cleaning human hair and pet fur without damaging the carpet or floor. That person had said a lot, but Feng Zhao had still rejected him. Why? Even during the peak shedding season, curly hair's hair loss wasn't serious, so there was no need for such a cleaning robot. Go and play. Feng Zhao patted curly hair's head. Curly hair rushed into the gaming room like a gust of wind. After switching off the lights in the room, Feng Zhao stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling window and watched the lights of Qian City from above. It would be a lie to say that he didn't have any emotions. However, Feng Zhao wasn't like Xue Jing, and the others were worried about. He wasn't nervous, didn't suffer from insomnia, and didn't feel anxious at all. Instead, he was a little excited. As a composer, Feng Zhao was naturally willing to let more people hear his own works. In his previous life, he hadn't had such conditions. As for something like a concert, he didn't even need to think about it. Even during the old era, there hadn't been such an experience. Chapter 273. August 5th, the first Saturday of August this year. At 6 p.m., there were already a lot of reporters camping around Golden Age. Their goal was not Feng Zhao, and they did not care about the quality of Feng Zhao's concert. They had come early to fight for the spots, and their goal was to spy on the various celebrities attending the concert. Silver Wing lived up to its reputation as a well-known entertainment company in Yenzhou. It did everything to maximize profits. For example, when Fang Zhao's concert had been selling tickets, Silverwing had gotten its own stars to help hype it up. Today, they were using the concert to create a wave of news and get their own stars to show their faces. Less than 20 meters from the entrance was paved with a red carpet. It could be said that the time before the concert started was their stage. Outside the music hall, stars glittered. Even though only a portion of Silverwing stars had come, it was enough to excite the entertainment reporters. There were also other celebrities who had come with a variety of motives. There were first, second, and third-rate celebrities, as well as third-rate celebrities. Nearby, there were fan groups from various stars who had heard the commotion. Security personnel guarded the area layer by layer. The concert had not yet started, but entertainment news was breaking out one after another. There was an official Silverwing report that was more reserved, Golden Age's red carpet show at the entrance. He Leezy leads Silverwing stars in an appearance. There were also XXX's stunning red carpet show and XX's stunning beauty, and so on. One look, and you could tell that the team behind the event was using it to ride on the hype. Besides a few movie stars, there were also gaming teams. Silverwing had already made arrangements, such as Jinro and the others. There were also people from other continents who had no intention of following the hype. For example, Monsieur and the others had entered through a different passageway in Golden Age's music hall, not expecting to meet the reporters. Their goal was the concert, not to stir up news. However, those who were willing to keep a low profile were few and far between. Zero was one of those people who liked to shine everywhere. Dressed in old-era aristocratic attire, he put on airs and was rather intimidating. Half a minute had passed, and he had not even covered a third of the 20-meter red carpet. Every 2 steps, he would strike a pose and let the reporters take their fill of pictures. When he finally walked through the door, Zero's intimidating attitude was gone. His face was full of impatience as he looked at his agent. "That idiot still isn't here?" Zero's agent replied calmly, "I just asked. She said she has already arrived in Qian and is changing." Zero surfed the internet in boredom, watching Silverwing's live broadcast of the red carpet outside. She's the only one with so many problems. Seeing that many people were still discussing him in the comments section of the live broadcast, Zero's eyes automatically filtered out the negative comments and stared at the ones that praised him. What did those celebrities count for? See, this is the charm of our Lijo's #1. After Zero entered the room, the reporters outside could no longer take pictures of him. They whispered to each other, "Zero is indeed a pretentious person. If I didn't know how unreliable he usually is, I might have really been subdued by him." However, before everyone could finish discussing Zero, someone even more pretentious than Zero appeared. A personalized pumpkin car, a gorgeous princess dress, and a noble aura. He was holding an umbrella in his hand. As soon as this person appeared, the reporters immediately focused their attention on the other celebrities. Barbara, the one from the Localina family, she actually came. This was an unexpected surprise. The entertainment reporters were getting more and more excited, snapping away at Babla. When Zero, who was watching the live broadcast, saw that the comment section was all about Barbara, he said unhappily, "It's already dark. Why are you holding an umbrella? Idiot." Indeed, this was also the doubt in many reporters' hearts. The weather these few days had been pretty good. It hadn't rained, and it was still nighttime. Why was she holding an umbrella? However, the next moment everyone knew. Bang! Barbara raised her hand, and the umbrella automatically opened and lit up. There were even blinding gems hanging from the umbrella. All the reporters. So, it was an umbrella light. It was indeed dazzling. Tonight, there was no one more dazzling than her. Perhaps in a while, when the news was pushed out, she would be the headline. Zero was unhappy. She cheated. She actually brought equipment. Zero's agent remained silent at the side. When Barbara walked through the door, Zero grumbled, "Didn't you eat tonight? Why are you walking so slowly?" Because this time, Zero was the one who had invited Barbara to the concert. He had directly booked a VIP room and gone over with Barbara. There was still some distance from here to hall number 1, and not far from Zero and Barbara, an entertainment reporter who had bought a live ticket, was squatting there and secretly taking pictures. Seeing that Zero and Barbara were walking together and seemed to be talking about something, his eyes immediately lit up. Look! What did I just capture? Indeed, an expensive live ticket was still worth it. On the other side, Zero found the VIP room he had booked. Before the concert started, all the VIP rooms were sealed off to provide a more private space for the guests to discuss matters before the concert started. Zero was pondering how to broach the subject of his dark history with Barbara, while Barbara was fussing over the song list and author information. In the past, she had only known that Feng Zhao was a good gamer and a troublemaker during his military service. She didn't know much about his musical achievements. Zero's agent sat in a corner and surfed the internet to see who had come today. Some of the people who had come had actually not released the slightest bit of information. When he had just entered from another passageway, he had seen a few peculiar figures and wondered if his eyes were playing tricks on him. B2, as soon as he refreshed, another piece of news popped up. When he saw the contents, his hand immediately trembled.
Shock.
Lei and Law families united by marriage? Zero and Barbara appear at Golden Age Hall. The two appear intimate. New romance? Zero is walking with a beauty, and he's still doing these actions. Zero's agent raised his head and saw Zero's expression change as he scrolled through the news. He thought to himself, it's over. It's going to blow up. Indeed, the next moment, Zero jumped up as if he had stepped on a landmine. Bullshit. Appear intimate? Are their eyes filled with shit? And even a marriage alliance? Who said all this? Investigate. I'll sue them to death. Barbara had also seen the news her assistant had sent her, and her expression also looked like she had stepped on shit. Zero also didn't want to discuss his dark history with Barbara now. He hadn't even gotten rid of the dark history he had originally wanted to talk about, and now an even darker mess was sticking to him. He was beyond angry. He didn't want to sit together with Barbara and listen to the concert now. Just the thought of it made him angry. He thought that it must have been because he had been too close to Barbara when he had entered the door, and those stupid reporters had written nonsense about him. Book another room, Zero told his agent. His agent also had a headache. Live tickets have long since been sold out. There are definitely no more VIP rooms. I don't care. Pay more money and get the one next door to scram. Zero said angrily. His agent wasn't willing to do that. How could someone who could afford a VIP room lack that bit of money? Furthermore, it was very likely that the person next door was someone with status in Yenzhou. He was just a manager and an employee. How would he dare to rashly throw money to get the other party to scram? Besides, this was Yenzhou people's territory, and he wasn't in the right here. It wouldn't be good if this sort of thing got out. But now that Zero had seen the news online, he was fuming. Seeing his agent making excuses, he waved his hand. Stand to the side. I will go over personally. Zero strode over to the VIP room next door and pressed the doorbell vigorously. His agent came over to dissuade him. Senior Master, this isn't appropriate. What isn't appropriate? I know you are timid. Stand to the side. Zero once again pushed his agent aside. Seeing that someone had opened the door to the VIP room, he couldn't be bothered with his agent anymore. His tone was very harsh, as he said to the bodyguard who had opened the door, "You guys." He had only said 2 words when Zero froze, as if someone had suddenly grabbed his neck. His gaze was fixed on the insignia worn on the chest of the person who had opened the door. That was the Interplanetary Fund's insignia, and it wasn't any ordinary insignia. It belonged to the Interplanetary Fund's internal department. Zero was a silpants and didn't appear to be reliable normally. However, he was actually very clear about who he could provoke and who he couldn't. Furthermore, he knew that his family had a beneficial relationship with the Interplanetary Fund. Given the current situation, trampling on the Interplanetary Fund's face was no different from sabotaging his own business. He wouldn't have it easy when he returned. A vicious beating would be considered a light punishment. In the grand scheme of things, Zero would be prudent. Therefore, when Zero saw the insignia and used his meager IQ to weigh the pros and cons, he decisively chickened out. You guys. Good evening. Enjoy the concert, hahaha. After a few awkward laughs, Zero turned around and returned to his own room. He no longer had the guts to barge in like that. Compared to offending people he couldn't afford to offend, Zero decided that it was better to endure the humiliation. Wasn't it just a concert with that idiot Barbara? He would just pretend she didn't exist. Zero's agent had also turned pale from fright. He had been worried that Zero would go against the Interplanetary Fund. Luckily, Zero wasn't completely stupid and had stopped himself in time. Wiping the cold sweat off his forehead, Zero's agent thought to himself, "Indeed, those figures I saw when I entered were from the Interplanetary Fund. I wasn't mistaken." However, there were actually high-level Interplanetary Fund members attending the concert. This Feng Zhao guy is really something. Feng Zhao didn't know what those people were thinking. At this moment, he was replying to a message. "We have already arrived. Don't worry about us. Focus on your matters." This was a message from great-grandfather Feng. With Zui Yu and Yan Biao receiving them, Feng Zhao felt more at ease. There were also other familiar faces sending him messages, including Ji Polin, who had just finished walking the red carpet. He had also sent Feng Zhao a message after entering Hall Number 1. "All the best, Big Brother Zhao. All the best." Before the concert started, there were people from Silver Wing attending to them. Feng Zhao didn't need to do anything. After Old Master Xue Jing and his old friends arrived, they specially came backstage to check on Feng Zhao. They only left when they saw that everything was going smoothly and there were no abnormalities. The person in charge of backstage arrangements from Silver Wing noticed Feng Zhao sitting there silently and walked over. "Everything that needs to be prepared has been prepared. Just follow the plan. Don't be nervous." Although Feng Zhao didn't need to perform, there was still a thank you speech at the beginning. The Silver Wing person was worried that Feng Zhao would forget his lines when he went on stage. That would be awkward. Chapter 274. Because the time zones were different, it was nighttime in Yenzhou's Qian City, but that might not be the case elsewhere. On planet Baiji, where the military base was located, it was currently afternoon. Shanta and a batch of the base's top brass were seated in a recording studio. The equipment here was of the highest quality, and the Hall of Fame grade tickets that Shanta had bought would be screened here. Everyone should relax now. It's rare to get a chance to catch a concert. How many years has it been since we've seen something like this? I rather miss it. When Shanta had been young, he had also gone to a concert hall, but at that time, he had been with others to join in the fun and show off. After he had entered the military, he had never gone there again. When he had been transferred to Planet Baiji, there had been no entertainment venues, let alone a concert hall. Although he could not attend the concert live this time, listening to it online was also a pretty good experience. Before this, Shanta had sent some videos and photos to Feng Zhao to let Feng Zhao do as he saw fit. When the time came for the official concert, Feng Zhao could pick a few photos to use as background images to set off the atmosphere. The reason Shanta was so supportive of Feng Zhao, besides Feng Zhao's contributions to Planet Baiji, was also because of another motive. He did not have a strong business acumen, but when he had seen the news of Silver Wing hyping up Feng Zhao's concert and Fiery Bird taking the opportunity to sell a batch of audio equipment, he had wanted to use this opportunity to promote himself. Needless to say, the public did not necessarily like the style of official publicity. Once Project Starlight had ended, the number of people paying attention to Planet Baiji had clearly decreased. Now, Planet Baiji did not lack investments, but Shanta also hoped to garner more attention from the general public. After thinking it over, he decided to use Feng Zhao's matter to make his presence known. 11. The last time the group ticket purchase had caused a stir, Shanta had been rather pleased. For today's concert, Shanta had specially sent out news that many places in the military base would be concentrating on watching the concert. Back when it had been revealed that his military base had bought so many tickets to watch the concert, he had been criticized by many people, saying that he was spending money recklessly and wasting military funds. The people who had criticized him had included officers from other military bases who were of the same rank as him. but Shanta had ignored them. Later, during a video conference attended by various military base higher-ups, he had directly retorted, "How is this recklessly spending money? Us veterans on planet Baiji are tired to death all year round. Many of us don't even get to return home once in 10 years. In the past, when communications were poor, it was difficult to even see each other online. Now that conditions are better, can't we have some entertainment? It's not your own soldiers who don't feel bad, right? The military districts of the various continents on the mother planet often invite celebrities to perform. What's wrong with watching a concert online in a remote place like ours? That sum of money might not even be more than what you spend every year when you invite celebrities to perform." Furthermore, this concert is Feng Zhao's. Who is Feng Zhao? Serving on planet Baiji, discoverer of Grade A power or Reserve Duty Major. He's not someone with a suspicious identity. Shanta was mocking a certain military district that had once invited people to perform, only to discover that there were spies from extremist organizations among them. Something big had almost happened. Before talking about our Baiji military district, wipe your own, but clean first. After Shanta finished his rant in the video conference, he snorted in his heart. In comparison, all we did was save money to watch an online concert. What right do we have to be scolded? Moreover, this had the effect of publicity. How is it wrong? Ever since Shanta had flown into a rage during the video conference, not many people had brought up the matter again. Actually, for people at their level, attending a concert was just a small matter. The people who criticized Shanta over this matter were just that Shanta was in the limelight and felt that it was unfair. Speaking of the concert, Shanta actually had another thought. Planet Baiji was going to film a documentary. It was different from the short films and publicity films from before. This time it was more formal. After the production was completed, besides broadcasting it to the public, it would also be archived. In the future, Shanta's records of his accomplishments would also be included as a realistic record. That documentary had actually been filming for a long time and had always been in production. It was just that it had not been released to the public yet. Every year, a few episodes would be produced to document the changes that happened on planet Baiji. A documentary naturally needed a soundtrack. The military district had recommended a few people, and they were all masters who specialized in producing soundtracks for military documentaries. Naturally, Shanta could not reject them. For such an important documentary, every personnel involved in the production had to go through a series of checks and verifications, including the soundtrack composer. However, if Shanta fancied a piece that was suitable to be included in the documentary, and if the composer had no problems, he could also buy it. Thus, Shanta thought that if there were 10 pieces in Feng Zhao's concert, and if he was satisfied, he would pick one and buy it. Shanta had the authority to allocate a portion of the budget. Compared to this portion, the money for a soundtrack really did not take up much. When the time came, it would be included in the publicity and production budget. 7:30 p.m. in Chied City. The atmosphere outside the music hall had already cooled down. At this moment, the reporters squatting outside started to regret. If only they had bought live tickets and gone inside. Perhaps they would have been able to capture a few more photos of those low-key people who had not walked on the red carpet. Now, it was the reporters who had bought tickets and gone inside who would, from time to time, release some live news. For example, they had seen so-and-so great masters, so-and-so stars, and so on. In Hall Number 1, the concert officially began. As the composer of this concert, Feng Zhao went on stage to give his thanks. Facing the packed hall, Feng Zhao smiled and said, "Welcome to my concert, everyone. This is the first concert of my life." Many people who had held their first concert stood here, exhausted from not sleeping all night. They put on a calm facade, but Feng Zhao was the opposite. At this time and place, he felt refreshed, as if he had achieved his dream. In both his previous and current lives, this was the first time he had held a concert of his own in such a venue. He was not a singer, nor was he a professional performer, but as a composer, he was the same as many composers. He liked to use this sort of method to let more people hear his voice. He expressed his thoughts, expressed his thanks, and briefly introduced the background of tonight's 10 songs. Ming Song had told him before that people came to listen to his work, not to listen to his story. Even if they wanted to speak, they had to wait until after the concert. Also, the opening speech should not be too long. Modern people did not have that much patience. After the opening speech, when Feng Zhao went backstage, the white-haired orchestra conductor, who was about to go on stage, nodded at Feng Zhao, indicating that Feng Zhao did not need to worry. Actually, this conductor was over 80 years old. In the new era, he was not considered old. Even if his hair was white, it would not be this white. His current head of white hair was actually dyed by himself. Because this conductor felt that having a head of white hair made him look prettier and more stylish. The lights changed, and the venue quietened down. The VIP booths were also lowered, but there was a special curtain between the booths, so only a blurry silhouette could be seen next door. Zero craned his neck to take a look, but he could only make out what seemed like 4 or 5 people. He could not make out any more. Who exactly was next door? Zero was still guessing, his mind distracted. Barbara was chatting with a friend in Lajou. It was not convenient for voice calls, so she could only send text messages. Ha, since when were you together with Zero? The people in Lajou had also seen the news pushed by Yenzhou's entertainment magazine. It had caused quite a stir in Lajou. Barbara did not want to talk about this at all. She said unhappily, "Unlucky." The other side clearly knew that entertainment reporters would create news even if there was no news. They also understood Barbara's character, so they just mentioned it and laughed it off. If they said too much, Barbara would lose her temper, and when she was angry, she was rather difficult to deal with. Therefore, the other party stopped talking and asked, "Aren't you listening to a concert? Do you have time to chat?" "It hasn't started yet," Barbara replied. "Will you buy it? You also need a soundtrack for your later series, right? If you like it, you can buy one. Works that can be placed in a music hall are usually of higher quality." "I'll see." When Barbara had been searching for Feng Zhao's information, she had listened to the 100-year period of destruction series, but she felt that Feng Zhao's style was not suitable for her series. Barbara had come here because that idiot Zero had said he had something to discuss. Barbara had never listened to a concert in Yenzhou before and was a little curious, so she had come over. She decided to listen for a while. If the quality was not up to her standards, or if it was not to her liking, she would go online and play something else. As they were chatting, the delicate and slow piano notes drifted into her ears, bringing with them an indescribable emotion. It seemed to be a little disappointed and nostalgic, but there was also a sense of stability and comfort. Barbara involuntarily sat up straight, and her expression became serious. The eyebrows of the few old men sitting with Xuejing twitched simultaneously. They were astonished. The first song on the playlist was Empty. The stage background was an azure blue planet and an endless starry sky. The playlist in her hands also introduced that this song had been composed by Feng Zhao after he had left Earth for his military service. Clearly, this song, Empty, was different from what they had imagined, especially for those who had seen the background of the composition of the song and heard Feng Zhao's 100-year period of destruction series. The first song, Empty, had a piano as the main theme in the first half, complemented by string music. Simple yet tranquil and ethereal. Following that, the string music went from shallow to deep, layer by layer, and the piano notes went from slow to fast. A few continuous turns were the emotions churning in one's heart. In the middle, a gentle and melodious orchestral music was added, and the drumbeat gradually intensified. The intertwined melodies rose and fell as they converged. It was as if they were quietly watching, but their emotions were surging wildly until the suppressed emotions exploded. It was like a sudden explosion of gorgeous fireworks, surging and stirring. Then, it turned into a quiet star in the vast universe, beautiful and profound. It seemed as if there was nothing, yet it felt as if there was everything. An old man sitting beside Xuejing stared at the huge image of azure blue and black colliding behind the stage. It was as if he could see a legend and hope from this azure blue planet. As the last note fell, his originally tightly furrowed brows relaxed, and a faint smile appeared on his face. This was different from the obvious epic style of Feng Zhao's masterpiece, the 100-Year Period of Destruction series. The 100-Year Period of Destruction series had an obvious narrative and eulogistic style, with a grand and shocking epic quality. As for this song, Chapter 275. After the first song, Xuejing looked at the expressions of his old friends beside him, and his heart that was hanging in the air was relieved. Although he had seen the score of the first song and had confidence in Feng Zhao, he had been worried about the quality of the official performance. Now, it looked like it was just as he had expected. Very good. The few old men who had come with Xuejing also started to discuss in hushed voices. If the quality of the next few songs is the same as this, your disciple is in the bag, one of them said to Xuejing with a smile. Not a disciple, really not. He can only be considered a student. Xuejing hurriedly waved his hands. He had not taught Feng Zhao much when it came to composing music. He had only occasionally given pointers and pushed Feng Zhao to develop more smoothly. He was far from being considered a master. For people like them, the nature of a disciple and a student were different. Anyone who had been taught could be considered a student. Even those who had only attended one of their lessons could be considered their students. But a disciple was the kind of person who was personally taught knowledge, thought, behavior, theories, and so on. Therefore, Feng Zhao could only be considered a student of Xuejing and not a disciple. However, even a student had a close relationship. Everyone in the industry knew what Xuejing's attitude toward Feng Zhao was. It was better than being a disciple. Old Lin, what do you think? My student isn't bad, right? Xuejing said to the person beside him, a little pleased. The old man sitting beside Xuejing had been the former chairman of the Huangzhou Music Association. He was a few years younger than Xuejing and was over 150 years old this year. He was Xuejing's junior, a Huangzhou native. This time, Xuejing had dragged him over to listen to this junior Feng Zhao's concert. Lin Sun shifted his gaze away from the stage and thought for a bit before saying, "This little fella is different from what I imagined." Many young composers who step into outer space for the first time like to use the orchestra to constantly change and raise the key, enlarge the scale of the performance, and increase the volume to express the vastness and beauty of the universe. When I first saw the background of this composition, I also thought he would use this method to express himself. Unexpectedly, he did not. Instead, he focused more on the emotional changes in his heart. It was not impossible, but it was not easy. Many newcomers might not be able to perform well in this aspect, but the feeling Feng Zhao's compositions gave them was one of experience. This was not something a newcomer, who had just entered the industry, could do. Feng Zhao's works give people a strong sense of storytelling. They might not be able to understand the meaning behind it, but the listeners often had this kind of feeling. A very formidable little fellow. Lin Sun said with a sigh. Originally, Lin Sun had thought that when he wrote his review after the concert, he would give Xuejing some face and criticize him tactfully. But now Lin Sun felt that it was hard to approve. People of their level would generally not praise and praise the younger generation's concerts. Generally, they would give half of their approval and half of their advice. They would talk about the pros and cons and half of their good and bad words, but the emphasis would be on the advice. In other words, the focus would still be on the latter. What a headache! In addition to the music list, Lin Sun also had a notebook, which he used to record his thoughts during the concert. After the concert ended, he would organize them into comments and post them. The interval between each song in the concert was also to make it easier for the seniors in the circle to discuss and write. But now, the notebook in Lin Sun's hands only had a few pitiful words. He felt like he wanted to write a lot, but he didn't know what to write. I'll write more for the next one, Lin Sun thought to himself. On Barbara's end, after the first song ended, she noticed that the notification light for new messages was flashing. Because her phone was set to silent, there was only a notification of incoming messages. When she opened it, there were more than 10 messages. 3 minutes ago, hey Barbie, I will probably make a trip to Planet Y next month. When the time comes, I will go to the film studio complex to find a few celebrities and have some fun at Peach Blossom Spring. 3 minutes ago, what do you think of the suggestion just now? 2 minutes ago, Barbie? 2 minutes ago, did you run into some trouble? After skimming through the messages, Barbara closed the chat window and gestured to her assistant. Her assistant hurriedly handed over a notebook. This was the notebook Barbara used for concerts. Although Barbara liked to show off, she was still rather serious when it came to concerts. As long as it was not a genre she really didn't like or a concert of extremely low quality, she would make some notes every time she attended. She was different from Xue Jing and those other academic artists. She would analyze her own preferences and the commercial value of her music. Fang Zhao's concert was better than she had expected. Although it was different from the music she usually listened to, it was still acceptable. It didn't have the dense, murderous aura of the 100-year period of destruction series and the heavy atmosphere of history. Barbara didn't like things that were overly heavy. She preferred bright, sparkling, lyrical, refreshing, and the type that made people happy. Regardless of whether it was classical or modern, whether the tempo was fast or slow, as long as it wasn't too bad, she could accept it. As for Empty, it was within her acceptable range. Perhaps she could really buy a song from this concert. Just as she was about to write something, she caught a glimpse of something from the corner of her eye. She raised her head and saw Zero craning his neck in her direction. Zero just wanted to see what Barbara was going to write. He was purely curious, but he didn't expect to see anything. Barbara just rolled her eyes at him. Pursing his lips, Zero sat back down and said to his agent, "Taking notes at a concert? You're crazy." When he was a student, he didn't even take notes in class. Listening to a concert was refreshing and enjoyable. What was there to take notes for? Spoil sport. Different from the style that Barbara liked, Zero liked the 100-year period of destruction series. It was grand and shocking, the murderous and unyielding genre. It was exciting to listen to. It was fine to be a little lyrical as long as it wasn't over the top. Zero wasn't a professional and couldn't evaluate from a professional point of view. He had never thought about it from a professional point of view. He just felt that it wasn't bad, and that was enough. Who cared what others thought? If he liked it, even if a professional criticized it to the point of shit, he would still buy it. If he didn't like it, even if those people praised it to the heavens, he wouldn't give it a second glance. For tonight's concert, the first song was still within his acceptable range. Zero said, "Hey, I think this isn't bad. I'll buy it after the concert." His agent replied, "It's just the beginning. Keep listening. Who knows, there might be something you like more." Zero thought about it. That's true. He looked at the song list. The second song was called Zich. What does Zich mean? Zero was puzzled. Why do these artists like to be deliberately mystifying? Can't they just give it a name that's easy to understand? Zero's agent said in a low voice, "It's written in the background of the composition. ZH is the elemental symbol. It's the new elemental symbol that was found in the grade A power, or on planet Baiji." Listening to the conversation between Zero and his agent, Barbara sneered in her heart. Idiot! Not only is he illiterate, he's also blind. The lighting changed, signifying the start of the second song. Barbara couldn't be bothered to scold Zero anymore. The concert hall quietened down once more. When the prelude started, Barbara's expression changed. Interesting. The orchestral music was like a gust of wind blowing into a mine from the outside. The piano was slowly struck. At the end of each short melody, the piano note repeated itself like an echo. In the concert hall, there was a kind of hallucinatory feeling of listening to the echoes. Suddenly hearing it made one panic, and one's whole body felt chilly. But as one listened, there was a different kind of charm. Following that, the rhythm of the clarinet's alto changed. It was pure and light, paired with the string music. The rhythm was controlled very well, like the lively throbbing of a pulse and the rise and fall of breathing. It was simple and unadorned, but also a little psychedelic. It seemed like there was a kind of mystery that was hard to probe. It was like the background image of the dark rock face, the strange and dazzling world that no one knew about. The gentle and romantic female voice seemed to be calling out to the mysterious world beneath the rock face, the birth of that shining star. Sitting beside Xuejing, Lin Sun's eyes were focused on the huge image behind the stage. He had a serious expression on his face and maintained a listening posture, as if he wanted to hear as much as possible from the music. He didn't even glance at the notebook in his hand. Only when the song ended did he sigh. Very spiritual. No one knew if he was talking about the ZH song that had just finished playing or the composer. One of the old men seemed to have thought of something and smiled at Lin Sun. "Old Lin, that song just now, didn't it have a bit of your wandering style?" "No, I don't think so." Another old man shook his head. "That song just now lacked the elegance, but it had a kind of penetrating power." A few other old men also joined in the discussion. When the clarinet brought about the sudden change in rhythm at 20 seconds, I wanted to give him high marks. I'm different from you. When the violin came in at 45 seconds, I suddenly felt like I was startled. The sound of the violin added a lot to this piece. Another old man, who had a preference for stringed instruments and especially liked the violin, disagreed. Listening to the discussions of his old friends, the smile on Xuejing's face deepened. He wanted these old friends to understand Feng Zhao better. He hoped that Feng Zhao could gain their approval. This would be good for Feng Zhao's future development. Before this, when people in the industry mentioned Feng Zhao, they would always talk about the 100-year period of destruction series, but Xuejing wanted these people in the industry to know that Feng Zhao could produce even more. He could be grand and hot-blooded, and he could also be delicate and gentle. However, after Lin Sun said a few words, he fell silent, as if he was considering something important. About half a minute later, Lin Sun sent someone a message. 11 recently, he had been invited to create the soundtrack for a scientific and educational documentary produced by Huangzhou Geography Channel. More than 10 episodes of the documentary were about ores. He had not written a satisfactory piece for this segment, and he had not found a suitable one before. But now, he felt that he could recommend Feng Zhao's ZH. Feng Zhao's song was about new ores and new elements, and it was in line with the theme of the documentary. Lin Sun felt that it would be too much of a waste if such a high-quality piece was bought by a commercial company. If it was placed in a commercial film, it might only appear for a while and not be heard the next year. However, a high-quality scientific and educational documentary was different. This kind of shelf life was very long, and it was directly stored in high-quality cultural archives. Local television stations' educational channels might broadcast it every year. Schools would also play documentary clips during teaching, and it could be heard. Just as scholars hoped that their writings could be passed down through the ages, every composer hoped that their works could survive for a longer period of time and not be heard the next year. In the new era, where information was exploding, such opportunities were rare. The more he thought about it, the more he felt it was a pity, so Lin Sun immediately sent a recommendation message to the production team. Chapter 276. On the other side, Zero also said to his agent, "Hey, this song isn't bad either. It's quite interesting. Note it down. Who knows, it might be useful in my future films and TV series." Zero's agent did not utter a word. This was only the second song. What if Zero changed his mind later on? In any case, he would not let Zero squander his money here. The first two songs had already shown the quality of this concert. Just as the elders in Xuejing's group had said, as long as the quality of the later songs was not too far off from the first two, this concert was in the bag. After that, the third song, The Power of Life, was inspired by the germination of the arrow sunflowers in Planet Baiji's Outpost 23 experimental plot. The opening seemed monotonous and repetitive, but it had a kind of murmur of beauty. The gradual, overall arrangement carried the tension of life. The more one listened, the more one would be drawn into the mood it created. Amidst the foreshadowing harmonies, the emotions slowly advanced. The silence and struggle of life, the eruption of breaking through the soil, and the cries were all displayed. This was a piece that had a lot of stamina and could evoke a strong emotional resonance in the audience. Then came the fourth song, Enemy Attack, the fifth song, Counterattack, the sixth song, Legion. When they heard this, many fans who had been watching the 100-Year Period of Destruction series online revealed nostalgic smiles. It was still a familiar formula, and it was still a familiar flavor. Similar to the style of the 100-Year Period of Destruction series, Enemy Attack was filled with layers of danger and tension. It was as if every nerve in the audience was stretched taut. The majestic and imposing orchestral music of Counterattack was thick and heroic. Even through the screen and audiovisual equipment, one could feel the scalp-numbing murderous aura. There was also the heart-stirring music of Legion as the heavy soldiers advanced step by step. Listening to each song, it was like having a hot pot in the middle of winter and sweating profusely. Satisfying. It was a completely different tune from the 100-Year Period of Destruction, but people who heard it could immediately recognize that it was composed by the same composer. If they had listened to these songs from the beginning, many old veterans of the music industry would surely have thought, Fang Zhao is still doing the same old thing and only knows this kind of style. But after listening to the first three songs, they could only sigh. This little fella is really not simple. And what completely changed people's minds about Fang Zhao was the ninth song, which was also the second last song of the concert. Encore? Encore? Another one? Zero looked at the title of the ninth song on the song list, puzzled. When he saw Barbara looking at him, he hurriedly said, "Oh right, it seems like there's something about the life symbol." After saying that, Zero gave a thumbs up for his profound knowledge, feeling especially proud of himself. In the end, he saw Barbara roll her eyes again. Was it not? Puzzled, Zero flipped through the electronic music list and looked at the background of the composition of the song. Name? Is Anne a person's name? Zero muttered to himself with a confused look on his face. His manager sighed silently at the back. This was the consequence of not knowing anything and yet speaking without thinking. Idiot. Young master, the names of the songs on the music list are written in different fonts, the agent explained in a low voice. Zero flipped back to the list and looked at the title of the ninth song. The font was really different from the previous ones. However, Zero was thick-skinned and didn't feel embarrassed at all. It was as if he had discovered a big secret. So, it was written for a newborn baby? Aired according to the explanation on the background of the creation. That's correct, the agent replied. The lights on the stage changed. This time, there was no specific image. Instead, there was a warm hue that looked like rippling water. The sound of a piano rang out. The prelude was very gentle. Every single note on the piano leaped in the heart, simple and clear. The violin created a tranquil and peaceful atmosphere. It was like the first ray of sunlight shining through the clouds after a gloomy, rainy morning. It warmed the heart. The melodious violin and piano concerto stirred up waves in the tranquil place. The unbroken string notes were like a morning breeze brushing past a stream, blowing out of the forest and slowly ascending. There were some bumps, but in the end, it traversed mountains and rivers, flew over the wilderness, and soared into the vast sky, playing a majestic and free music. It felt like something was flowing faster, but it wasn't time. It wasn't as fierce, not as heavy. It carried warmth and light, waiting for time to brew the answer. The entire song was like an invisible spring, carefully and continuously seeping into the heart. By the time he came back to his senses, his heart had already been filled. The music contained too many emotions, but just as it was about to gush out, it was suppressed. Even Xuejing was flabbergasted after listening to it. This is Fang Zhao's composition? After listening to the previous few songs, listening to this one is very surprising. It's a little like that student of Ming's songs from a few months ago, Ha Wen's style. No, it's different from Ha Wen's. Ha Wen's style was the kind of warm, gentle, and exquisite, while Fang Zhao's encore had a resplendent glow under this kind of tranquility. It looked simple and clear, but it also had an indescribable power to it. When the song ended, Ha Wen clapped vigorously and shook his head with a smile, as if he had seen something inconceivable. He told his wife beside him, "What an impressive junior. Really impressive." Zero was also deeply moved. "In the future, when my own child is born, I will also get him to compose a song for me." Thinking about it, he felt wronged. Why hadn't his father thought of getting someone to compose a song for him when he was born? After lamenting, Zero habitually glanced to the side to check on the situation in the neighboring room. He discovered that there was a figure moving about in the neighboring room. This made Zero suspicious. The previous room had been quieter. Even if there were people moving about, only one person was moving. It was probably a bodyguard or assistant who was pouring tea or something. But now it seemed like there was something going on over there. Could it be that they finally couldn't resist going to the toilet? Zero thought mischievously. As for Barbara, after listening to the 9th song, she was a little dazed. Following that, she wrote 2 lines in her notebook and stopped, as if she was hesitating about something. Finally, she became determined. She decided to buy this song. Calling her assistant over, Barbara instructed, "Contact." She had only just started when she was cut off. Barbara stared at the electronic music list. After the 9th song, Encore, the originally hollow circle had become solid. The hollow circle signified that the copyright had not been sold, while the solid circle signified that it had already been sold. How long had it been since the 9th song ended? Had it even been a minute? Who exactly had intercepted her target? If not for the sake of maintaining her elegant aristocratic image, Barbara would have flipped the table in front of her. Preposterous. Daring to intercept her goods. However, things had already come to this. Barbara suppressed the rage in her heart and continued to sit there with a cold expression. She would wait until the concert ended before investigating. She wanted to see exactly who had been so fast. The 10th and final song of the concert, Expedition, had a picture of Baiji Military District's spaceport in the background. This was a picture that Shanta had carefully selected and sent over. The opening 3 low-frequency warning sounds of Expedition were like fog whistles. It was as if the entire concert hall was shaking 3 times in response. This set the main key of this song. Domineering. Stunning. That warning sound was actually imitated by musical instruments during the performance, so it was different from the actual warning sound. However, every person who served in the military district knew that it meant that a large transport ship or spacecraft was approaching planet Baiji. Within the spaceport, a large number of flying transports were about to land, and unrelated personnel were being evacuated. The crisp sound of the piano, the imposing trombone, and the rousing beat of the drums made one feel as if through the background image, one could see millions of large and small flying transports taking off and landing in planet Baiji's spaceport. It was as if one could see that enormous expeditionary force on planet Baiji. Under the stimulation of the music, every nerve was abnormally excited. It was as if hot blood had already boiled into steam, spurting out from the pores of one's body. Even if one closed one's eyes, one could still feel that grand scene. Combining industry with technology, this icebreaker had truly broken through the layers of ice and taken a step towards outer space. From one planet to another, from one star system to another. My army, carrying hot blood, courageously advance, conquering the sea of stars. Baiji Military District Main Base.
Bang!
Shanta slammed his palm forcefully on the tea table beside him and laughed heartily.
This is it. Seize it.
Actually, when the 3 simulated warning sounds of the instruments had sounded, Shanta had wanted to slam the table, but he had felt that as a dignified commander, he should not be so impatient. It was rare that he had waited until the song was over before slapping down. Contact Fong Zhao. After some thought, Shanta added, "Contact Silver Wing." "Forget it, Hong Lu. You go speak to your wife yourself." Sitting beside him, Hong Lu. Silver Wing was Fong Zhao's concert management company and was in charge of managing the copyrights. If one wanted to buy it, one had to approach Silver Wing. That was why Shanta had gotten Hong Lu to look for Duan Qianji. Directly contacting the big boss was more efficient, and he could even get a discount. Hong Lu sighed, returned to his office, and picked up his communications device to contact Duan Qianji. Of course, he knew how much Fang Zhao's works could fetch on the market. He also knew that if Baiji Military District wanted them, Duan Qianji would surely offer a rather reasonable price. The main reason was because he was here, and it was not good to offend Shanta. He had to go along with Shanta's wishes. It was not that they were afraid of Shanta, but there was no need to incur enmity. In the grand scheme of things, a peace was just a small matter. This time, Duan Qianji would have to earn less money. At this moment, Duan Qianji was looking at those professionals' evaluations of Fang Zhao's concert. Seeing their approval of this concert, she was happy. She was happy for Fang Zhao and happy for those works that were about to sell for a good price. After this, Fang Zhao's value in the circles would rise once again. At this moment, Duan Qianji received a call from Hong Lu. She was curious why Hong Lu would contact her at this time. Could it be that he wanted to congratulate her? When the call went through, Duan Qianji saw Hong Lu's guilt-ridden face. Hong Lu, wifey, I have let you down. Duan Qianji's hands trembled, and the smile on her face nearly crumbled. When she heard the rest of Hong Lu's words, Duan Qianji realized that he was talking about Fang Zhao's final song, Expedition, at tonight's concert. Duan Qianji let out a long sigh of relief. In her heart, she cursed, I fucking thought you cheated. Your Baiji Military District wants to buy it? Duan Qianji asked. MMHM Shanta said that the most important thing is to get the last song. All right, got it. We can discuss the price later. I will first change the label. As she spoke, Duan Qianji changed the hollow circle at the back of Expedition to a solid one. Chapter 277. After the final song, Fang Zhao and the orchestra took their curtain call. Fang Zhao stood on stage and bowed to the audience. It was over. He hoped that the first answer he handed in would satisfy them. His first concert, 10 compositions, 10 stories that belonged to him. At least at this moment, the audience was listening to Fang Zhao's story. Before this, for example, the 4 movements of the 100-year period of destruction series, when people first heard them, they did not think of Fang Zhao's own story. They were built on the virtual idle polar light. The emotions and feelings conveyed through audio and video were the stories of polar light's virtual character, not Fang Zhao's. Any good work was just a story told by the author. Now, no matter how the audience listened to the concert, they would know the background of these 10 compositions and the story behind each one. Fang Zhao looked forward to more opportunities like this in the future. He was very happy. After the curtain call, Fang Zhao had just returned backstage when he received a call from Duan Qianji. Did you see the status of the music list? Duan Qianji asked. I saw it. Fang Zhao was holding an electronic music list in his hand. There were already 3 songs on it. The status of the list was a solid circle. While Fang Zhao was on the phone with Duan Qianji, another song was marked with a solid circle. In other words, the status of these 4 songs had changed from copyright unsold to sold. They might not have been sold out so quickly, but they had definitely been booked. 4 of your 10 compositions have already been booked, Duan Qianji said. Fang Zhao had signed with Silver Wing as a composer. Silver Wing was his management company, in charge of copyrights and sales. If it had only been to inform Fang Zhao that 4 songs had been sold, Duan Qianji would not have needed to personally call to explain. When Fang Zhao had signed with Silver Wing, he had added that he had to be approved before any sales, including the 10 works for this concert. If Fang Zhao was not satisfied with any of the buyers, he had the right to reject them. If there were no special circumstances, if someone fancied Fang Zhao's compositions, they would contact Silver Wing to purchase them, but they would still need Fang Zhao's approval before they could officially change the status of the compositions. But now, without Fang Zhao's notice, not only had the status of the compositions been changed, but it had been for 4 songs at once. Fang Zhao knew that Duan Qianji was not someone who would go back on her word. There had to be a reason for her to change the status. This phone call was to explain. Therefore, Fang Zhao did not get angry. Instead, he waited for Duan Qianji to continue. Shanta has taken a fancy to expedition, Duan Qianji said. Fang Zhao understood why Duan Qianji had changed the status of expedition in advance. Actually, this was within Fang Zhao's expectations. He had guessed that Shanta would take a liking to expedition, so he had no objections. Even if Duan Qianji sold it to Baiji Military District at a low price, Fang Zhao could accept it. At the very least, Baiji Military District still intended to purchase it. In the past, when Yenzhou Military District had fancied the 100-year period of destruction movement, they had directly requisitioned it. Seeing that Fang Zhao did not object, Duan Qianji continued to explain. Encore has been chosen by the Interplanetary Fund. This was also the first one booked. Before the song was over, they came over to discuss it. We couldn't reject their offer. The price was higher than we expected, and they said that it would be used for charity. So, under their strong request, I changed the status of Encore. The Interplanetary Fund had welfare organizations that cooperated with the government, hospitals, orphanages, and so on. Every year, the Interplanetary Fund would film public service announcements for these organizations. 2 a year, one in the first half of the year, and one in the second half of the year. Now, the Interplanetary Fund wanted to use Encore as the soundtrack for their public service announcements in the first half of the year. Fang Zhao nodded. Understood. Fang Zhao could not find a reason to reject the Interplanetary Fund's offer. If it was used for charity, even if it was just a friendly price, Fang Zhao would still agree. However, it was clear that the Interplanetary Fund did not lack money and had no intention of suppressing the price. ZH was the third to be booked. The one who contacted us is Huangzhou Geography Channel. They wish to use ZH in an educational documentary about ores. The price they offered is also very reasonable. This is a good thing for you and will be beneficial for your future career development. From what I know, this educational documentary produced by Huangzhou Geography Channel is considered a premium grade. It has many uses, can be archived, and has a long lifespan. This kind of opportunity is hard to come by. Fang Zhao still had no way of rejecting this offer. However, how had Huangzhou Geography Channel contacted him so quickly? Recalling that Xuejing had told him that he would be bringing along a few old friends, Fang Zhao decided that he would ask Xuejing later on if it was a recommendation from a great master. Otherwise, why would someone who prided themselves on being pretentious and only picking great masters like Huangzhou Geography Channel pick his work? As for the fourth song, The Power of Life, it was booked by Huangzhou Life Sciences Research Institute. I think it was recommended by Professor Fan Lin from the Academy of Sciences HQ. This year is the 400th anniversary of the Huangzhou Life Sciences Research Institute. This song might have an important use. Huangzhou Life Sciences Research Institute was a branch of the Academy of Sciences HQ and was also an important research institute. When Duan Qianji mentioned these four, Fang Zhao really could not find a reason to reject them. Without a doubt, these four buyers were not purely commercial organizations. They would also maximize the value of these four works. Duan Qianji chuckled.
Oh, right.
Fiery Bird sound effects team head, Huali, took a liking to the first song. Do you have any objections? MMHM, while Duan Qianji was speaking, Fang Zhao had already received a message from Huali. Huali informed Fang Zhao that he was very interested in the first song, Empty, and was in negotiations with Silver Wing to purchase it. After obtaining Fang Zhao's approval, Duan Qianji changed the hollow circle at the end of Empty to a solid one, telling everyone who was holding the music list that this song had been booked. Thus, many people who had come to listen to the live concert had not even walked out of concert hall number 1 when they discovered that half of the 10 songs on the electronic music list in their hands had already been booked. What kind of speed was this? For a composer who was still in the early stages, this kind of speed of sales was really astonishing. Perhaps it was because of the speed at which these 5 songs were sold, but the remaining 5 songs did not stay for long before all of them changed to solid circles. After the performance ended, Zero walked out with a face full of anger. Barbara, who had been with him, did not have a good expression either.
Why?
They had not been able to buy a single song. Zero had been faced with a difficult choice. Zero's agent had told Zero that their funds were limited and that there was no need to buy a few songs, so one song would do. Zero had his eyes on the music itself, but his agent was different. He had analyzed the songs from a commercial perspective and treated the money spent on each song as publicity expenses. The objective of this trip to Yenzhou had been achieved. However, after picking and choosing and hesitating for a long time, by the time Zero had made his decision, there was nothing left. As for Barbara, she did not face the same dilemma as Zero. She only bought what she liked the most, and she had her eye on Encore. However, there was someone with quick hands who had directly bought the song. She had not even made a call to Silverwing. She had wanted to quote a higher price to buy Encore back from Silverwing, but unfortunately, Silverwing had said sorry. Barbara's status was special. To prevent Barbara from hating Silverwing, Silverwing's people had also told Barbara who the buyer for Encore was. Because of this, Barbara had a belly full of anger that she could not vent. The Interplanetary Fund. The Interplanetary Fund also had important business dealings with the Localina family. Even a simpleton like Zero could admit defeat. Of course, Barbara knew what was the wisest choice. Sullen. Barbara had not felt this way in a long time. As they left the venue, they had learned their lesson and were not as high profile as they had been when they had entered. They avoided areas with reporters. If an entertainment reporter had photographed Zero and Barbie together, they would probably have come up with another 800 words of melodramatic news. Of course, the most important thing was that these two were not in a good mood. When they were in a bad mood, they did not want to deal with reporters. They looked at each other as if they had stepped in shit. Go, go, go. Hurry up and go back. I don't want to stay in Yenzhou. Zero picked up his pace and left. Barbara waved her hands as if to chase away some unpleasant smell. After a while, she lifted her chin and gestured to the assistants and bodyguards beside her. Let's go back. After the performance, Feng Zhao was like Ha Wen. He could not leave immediately. When the buyer of the music rights negotiated with Silverwing, Feng Zhao had to be present. Only one person from the Interplanetary Fund remained to negotiate the contract. The others had already left, so the negotiations went very quickly. Duan Qianji personally handled the matter on Planet Baiji, so there was no need to worry. Fiery Bird's side did not take long to reach an agreement. There were professionals to negotiate the deal, while Huali discussed composing matters with Feng Zhao and expressed that there would be more opportunities for collaboration in the future. Buy it if you like it. Hoarding it would definitely be of use. Fiery Bird made games. Even if it could not be used in games, it could still be used in advertisements. There were many products, and so were the advertisements. Although the company's music library was already stocked up, buying whatever you liked was how Huali had always been. On the other hand, Xuejing's side took up quite a bit of time. Ming Song had originally intended to chat with Feng Zhao, but he had not expected to see Xuejing with quite a number of industry veterans. Ming Song did not want to disturb them. He greeted Feng Zhao and congratulated him on his successful performance. Feng Zhao, this is an old friend from Huangzhou, Lin Sun or Professor Lin. He is the one who recommended your song, ZH, to Huangzhou's Geography channel. This time, you have to thank him. Xuejing pointed to Lin Sun and introduced him to Feng Zhao. I only look at the quality of works and only recommend the most suitable ones. Not bad, young fellow. Lin Sun's usually stern face revealed a faint smile. The style of Feng Zhao's performance this time was not simple. There was gentleness, hardness, subtlety, grandeur, mellow emotions. There were also blood-boiling fervor. Feng Zhao was able to show refinement in the subtlety and also show boldness in the roughness. Furthermore, the quality of every song was very good. One could see Feng Zhao's composing attitude. Combining all these factors together was what satisfied Lin Sun and the other industry veterans. Lin Sun and the others were still willing to lend a helping hand to this kind of junior. People who were close to Xuejing might have different personalities, but their attitudes and values towards music were more similar. They were willing to see even more outstanding juniors rise up. So what if they surpassed themselves? For this industry, this was a good thing. At least it proved that the ability of the composers of this era had not regressed. Other professional evaluation groups present at the venue also gave their evaluations of Fang Zhao's concert one after another. All in all, they acknowledged that this was a high-quality concert. Even Lin Sun, who liked to give pointers at length, gave a rare favorable review, although his praise was not obvious. Xue Jing was satisfied. He was happy that this young composer Fang Zhao had officially taken his first breakthrough step in the industry. On Planet Baiji, Shanta was also happy when he saw Silverwing's reply. This time, not only had he used Fang Zhao's concert to advertise, he had also bought a piece he had taken a liking to at a discounted price. Of course, he was not someone who didn't know what was good for him or bullied others. This time, he had made Fang Zhao suffer a loss and made less money. In the future, when Fang Zhao wanted to buy power he would also sell it to Fang Zhao at a discounted price. Apart from this, those who had been suppressing their anger and waiting for the concert to find fault with the quality of the works were not in a good mood. After listening to the first song, they felt that there was not much to say. Even if it was not a style they liked or a genre they were good at, they still had the basic ability to differentiate. Therefore, after listening to it, even if they did not like Fang Zhao's style, they could not say that it was bad. If they pretended to understand and blindly gave pointers, it would only lower their own value. Next song, next song, next song, next song. Then, the next song and the next song and the next song. 10 songs were over. All right, let's discuss where to start and how to approve it. The people who had been paid to write negative reviews gathered together to discuss how to approve it, so that it did not look like they were hired haters. If they really wanted to nitpick, it was not that they could not find fault, but they had to disguise it. After all, they were professionals and had to maintain their appearances. In Yenzhou, at a certain film company that had just finished listening to the concert online. Come, let's first have a small meeting to decide which song to take. I feel that there are a few songs that are more suitable for the movie we are currently producing. Actually, I feel that there are quite a few songs that are not bad, especially those that have the same style as the 100-year period of destruction. They are very suitable for our movie. We have to pick one song and find someone to rearrange it into 3. We can use the soundtrack and trailer as well. After confirming it, we can lower the price. We can also use this concert to hype up the movie. Look at the news before the concert. How exciting it is. It's a pity we have nothing to do with it. But looking at the entertainment news in Yenzhou, the hype has not died down yet. Who knows, we might be able to catch up. Half an hour later, the small meeting ended. They had finally decided on a song. Shaoli, prepare to contact Silverwing.
Ah.
Shaoli stared at the screen. What's up?
No.
No more. What do you mean? That's right, no more to buy. Shaoli enlarged the screen for the others to see. The circles behind the 10 songs on the list had all turned solid. In other words, all 10 songs had been sold. The team member called Shaoli scratched his head. Half of this was sold before your meeting, and the other half was sold during the meeting. That fast. The others were in disbelief. Could it be Silverwing's doing? Has the buyer been announced? Shaoli checked the news online and glanced at Silverwing's official status on the platform. There were no new updates. He shook his head. Not yet. Just as he finished speaking, he saw a new notification. Wait there. Shaoli hurriedly said. Silverwing just released it. They say all 10 songs have been sold. Not only were the people who wanted to buy the songs surprised, but the netizens were even more shocked. Half an hour after the concert ended, Silverwing officially put out an official announcement. All 10 of Fang Zhao's songs have been sold. There were all sorts of thank you messages, but no one was interested. Their focus was on the 10 songs. Was Silverwing telling the truth? My classmate is a fan of Fang Zhao's. He bought online tickets and just finished watching the concert with them. It was okay, but it shouldn't be this bad, right? I heard that newcomers usually only sell 1 or 2 songs after their first concert, and it takes a few months for them to sell out. Fang Zhao is different. He's a crossover artist and has a lot of fans. It's possible that rich people will spend a lot of money to buy them. Didn't this happen often in the past? I just want to know how much they sold for. For the majority of the netizens, the most direct way to judge a good or bad song was to see how much the other party sold it for. The prices won't be made public, but I heard they were sold for a high price. Rumors can't be trusted. Hype. Definitely hype. It's just a commercial trick. Buying and hyping up their own songs. It's not like Silverwing hasn't done this before. I've seen this kind of trick many times. Hyping up the price and tricking a bunch of dumbass companies into buying. I wonder which dumbass companies got scammed. Another 20 minutes passed. Dumbass companies are here. Photo. The photo posted by this netizen was a new Silverwing official announcement on their social media platform, announcing the buyers of the 10 songs from the concert. Interplanetary Fund, Baiji Military District, Fiery Bird, Huangzhou Geography Channel, and Huangzhou Life Sciences Research Institute. My dad asked me why I'm watching the news on my knees. Tisk, these dumbass companies are pretty high class. If these can be called dumbass companies, then what are the other companies? Paramecia. I can understand Interplanetary Fund, Baiji Military District, and Fiery Bird, but why are Huangzhou Geography Channel and Huangzhou Life Sciences Research Institute joining in the fun? Now that I think about it, I suddenly feel like attending their concert. I regret not buying tickets. Among the announced buyers, there were a few film and gaming companies. They couldn't compare to Fiery Bird, but they still had some global reputations. Usually, this would be a topic of conversation, but here, when the first 5 were listed, everyone's gaze was fixed on those 5 and nothing else. Just like before the concert, when Barbara's umbrella lights were turned on the red carpet outside the concert hall, the degree of brilliance and the ability to attract attention was not something others could compare to. Too dazzling. One look and nothing else could be seen. But no matter what, even those companies ranked at the bottom could not possibly be the dumbass companies that everyone was talking about. Very quickly, the wind direction online changed. The reviews given by professional review groups were mostly good, but audiences who didn't understand music could only look at a few keywords to determine whether these reviews were good or bad. After that, they continued to watch the fun. Videos of the concert would not be released online so quickly, so people who hadn't attended the concert could only learn about it through the news online. Over in Yenzhou, many reporters were up late at night, organizing their news reports. There were also reporters doing interviews outside. It was already past 10 p.m. in Yenzhou, very late, but there were still many places that were still lively. A reporter was looking for an interview target near the university town. He was in charge of interviewing university students in the area. This student, are you attending the concert? No. 3 consecutive days of team battles. I just woke up and have to go foraging for food. Student, do you know Feng Zhao? Yes, we used to listen to his 100-year period of destruction before exams. After interviewing a few people, this reporter heard some students discussing Feng Zhao's concert. After asking, he found out that they had watched Feng Zhao's concert online and surfed the internet in their dormitories. They had felt hungry, so they had come out for supper. The reporter asked these students to express their thoughts. I was still in secondary school when I listened to the 100-year period of destruction. Back then, I was studying for university, so I often listened to it. Tonight's concert was also very good. My favorite is Expedition, a student said. I like Encore. I never thought that Feng Zhao could produce such a style, another person said. The reporter turned his microphone to the next student. This was probably the first time this student had been interviewed by a reporter, so he was a little shy.
Me?
I like Enemy Attack, Counterattack, Legion, and Expedition. Yeah, it's good for studying. Also, I get quite excited listening to it. This kid is interesting, the reporter thought. He asked again, excited? Then what exactly did you feel when you listened to it? Or should I say, did the music give you any ideas? What kind of feelings? Ideas? It's hard to say. I don't know how to say it. My language isn't good, so I don't know how to organize my words. Just put it simply. Use your own words. To put it simply, when I listen to it, it feels like, yeah. The reporter gave him an encouraging look. Sleep your ass. Wake up high. Chapter 278. The next day, many entertainment media outlets reported on Fang Zhao's concert. The world's most authoritative periodical, Global Music, and Yenzhou's most authoritative music media outlet, Voice of Yenzhou, used large sections to introduce Fang Zhao, the young composer who had finally taken his first step. Reviews by people like Xue Jing and Lin Sun were published in Global Music, while Ming Song and the others published their own reviews in Voice of Yenzhou. Other entertainment media outlets had a commercial nature, but Global Music and Voice of Yenzhou had a stronger artistic nature. Many new and old artists in the music circles paid attention to them. Of course, Voice of Yenzhou and Global Music were not very approachable. Netizens naturally preferred to read reports that were entertaining and easy to understand. Regardless of whether it was the matter of Fang Zhao's 10 pieces being sold out within an hour of the concert or the buyers who had bought the pieces, both became topics of discussion. TSK. This Fang Zhao is really a capable person. Works that caught the eye of those parties are surely of good quality. Struck it rich. Fang Zhao has struck it rich this time. This was what many people thought. High-level institutions like Huangzhou Geography Channel and research departments like the Huangzhou Life Sciences Research Institute gave people a stronger sense of novelty. Regardless of the price, people felt that this kind of thing was more impressive. They had seen too many commercial companies, and institutions like these were the things that excited the masses. As for these kinds of high-level institutions and research departments, they wouldn't look for you just because you were a master or use your work just because it was outstanding. You had to match their preferences, hit the right spot, and have someone recommend it. Only after considering all these factors would they consider whether or not to buy it. That was why Duan Qianji had said that Fang Zhao's luck was good this time. Usually, it was hard for others to find such opportunities, but this time, Fang Zhao had gotten two. After the concert ended, Fang Zhao returned and found time to contact Fan Lin, who was still cultivating arrow sunflowers at Outpost 23's experimental plot on planet Baiji, to thank him for recommending Fang Zhao to the Huangzhou Life Sciences Research Institute. They really bought it? I told them that it's mainly based on the quality of your work. You'll be chosen based on your own ability. Fan Lin did not feel that he had done much. When he had been watching the concert online with the other people at the outpost, he had felt that the song, The Power of Life, was not bad, and it had been inspired by the germination of the arrow sunflowers he had been cultivating. It just so happened that the Huangzhou Life Sciences Research Institute had invited him to attend the institute's 400th anniversary celebration at the end of the year, so he had mentioned it to them. The Huangzhou Life Sciences Research Institute produced a large-scale documentary every 100 years. It recorded the major achievements and research results of the past 100 years, as well as the cultural landscape. They also wanted to find a master composer to compose the music. Fan Lin was also happy that this song had been chosen. Although it was Fang Zhao's composition, the background of the composition was his arrow sunflowers. Share the glory. There would surely be more than one soundtrack in the documentary, but for Fang Zhao's song to be chosen was also a fortuitous encounter. The experiment here is also nearing its end. I will return at the end of the year and may not leave Mother Planet for the next few years. Let's have a good chat then. Fan Lin said with a smile. When Fang Zhao was not at the outpost, Fan Lin felt that he was missing a good listener. Although Fang Zhao did not speak much, every time he spoke, his words were straight to the point. Furthermore, he was not narrow-minded, so Fan Lin chatted happily. After Fang Zhao had retired, Fan Lin had been rather lonely. After ending the call with Fan Lin, Fang Zhao looked at the evaluations of a few authoritative magazines in the music industry, scanned the comments online, and did not read any further. As for what the industry had to say, Fang Zhao could tell from the conversations of the veterans that Xue Jing had brought over. As for the rest, Silverwing's team would control the direction online. At least for now, the overall situation was pretty good. After going offline, Fang Zhao received a call from Duan Qianji's #1 secretary, Zhu Zhen. You can take a good break for the time being. As for the copyrights, the contract has already been signed, and the buyers are paying. Now, the internal procedures are in progress. Your portion will be transferred to your account next month when the company issues your salary. Oh, right. Fiery Bird's event on August 18th. Will you be attending? During Fang Zhao's military service, Duan Qianji had assigned Zhu Zhen to the Virtual Projects Department to manage. Now that the Virtual Projects Department had been taken over by Zhu Wen, Zhu Zhen had been transferred back by Duan Qianji to handle other matters. Jinro has informed me. Fiery Bird's Yenzhou branch has also sent me an invitation. When the time comes, I will be attending as a special guest, Fang Zhao replied. Zhu Zhen had wanted to let Fang Zhao tag along with the gaming team, but she had not expected that Fiery Bird would actually send Fang Zhao a separate invitation. On second thought, it made sense. Fang Zhao had endorsed a series of Fiery Bird products and had worked with them in the past. It was reasonable for him to receive a special invitation. That's great. I don't have to inform you about anything else. Zhu Zhen had just reminded Fang Zhao about the August 18th event and briefed him on the settlement after the copyrights had been sold. After the briefing, Zhu Zhen did not say anything else. Actually, in Fang Zhao's composing notebook, there were still 2 completed pieces that had not been taken out. One was Peach Blossom Spring, and the other was Arkansas. These 2 pieces had been composed while he was on another assignment. The setting was on Planet Y and could not be made public, so it would be difficult to explain why he had appeared on Planet Y during his military service. Thus, those 2 pieces did not appear in today's concert. What Duan Qianji meant was that the company would purchase the copyrights and use them in future productions at the Y Film Entertainment base. Although it was an internal purchase, not only would the price not be lowered, it would even be higher to compensate for the low price of Expedition. These would all be settled along with the other works that had been sold. Knowing that Fang Zhao was going to make a killing after selling all the copyrights, the department and gaming team, as well as a few close friends and relatives, all asked him to treat them. Fang Zhao replied to all his friends and relatives before taking a break. As for the Virtual Projects Department, Fang Zhao did not intend to take up any position there. He had other plans. He did not want to take up a position and collect a salary. He also wanted to give those hard-working and capable youngsters a chance to rise. Zhu Wen had seized this opportunity. He believed that they would develop the Virtual Projects Department even better. Early the next morning, Fang Zhao had just finished breakfast when he received a private message. The sender's verified information was the world's most authoritative pet magazine, Pet. It was a corporate account. The content of the private message was to create a file for Fang Zhao's pets. It was referring to curly hair. Pet had its own pet file, and it was all created by their professional team. Pets that could have a file on Pet all had their own special characteristics. Some people tried all sorts of ways to create a file on Pet because the value of a pet with a file on Pet would not be too low, and its popularity would increase. However, to reduce commercial hype, Pet also strictly adhered to their own standards when choosing a file on a pet. However, there were people who were willing to accept a file on a pet, and there were also people who were unwilling, like Fang Zhao. In the past, Pet had contacted Fang Zhao a few times, not 2 years in advance. Just this April, when Fang Zhao had just returned, they had also asked. However, at that time, Fang Zhao had used the excuse of preparing for a concert to reject them. Now that the concert had ended, Pet had hurriedly sent another request. Fang Zhao could also reject them again, but curly hair still had some fame in the pet circles. Furthermore, the competition in Muzhou had directly raised his value. If he kept hiding it, it would have the opposite effect. Looking at Pet's stance, it was clear that if Fang Zhao continued to reject them, they would still insist on sending requests again and again. If he continued to reject them, people would suspect that Fang Zhao was hiding something. However, Fang Zhao did not immediately agree. Instead, he replied, "Do I need to draw blood to create a file?" Previously, Fang Zhao had also asked some people and checked online. He knew that when a file was created, there would be people who would visit the pet for a checkup. However, curly hair was too special, so Feng Zhao still had to be more cautious. The other side had probably been waiting all along. After Feng Zhao sent this message, the other side immediately responded. No, no, no. Please believe that we are the most reputable and authoritative pet magazine in the world. We will not secretly draw blood from a pet without the owner's permission. We will not steal even a single strand of hair. There is too much information hidden within the blood, hair, and so on. Many pet owners were unwilling to divulge this information, especially those pets that were highly valued but had genetic defects. The owners definitely did not want outsiders to know about this. Even if the pet was healthy, the owners were also unwilling to do so. Thus, when they heard Feng Zhao's question, Pet's side hurriedly guaranteed that they would never do such things that violated privacy. The only reason they did a checkup for a pet was to create a better file and estimate the value of the pet. That's right. Pet would estimate the value of the pet after creating a file. This file was not always the same. Every year, they would provide 1 to 3 free checkups for the pets that were created. Then, the file would be updated according to the pet's condition, and the value of the pet might also change. When Curly Hair had first won the championship in Muzhou, Pet had wanted to create a file, but they had not been able to contact Feng Zhao at that time. After much difficulty, they had managed to contact Feng Zhao, but they had been rejected by Feng Zhao. At that time, Feng Zhao had been investigating the black street footage and had discovered the strange situation when he had just been reborn. He did not want Curly Hair's abnormality to be known by more people. Su Ho's team was still considered his own people, but it was hard to say for Pet. If they really found any problems, Feng Zhao would not be able to cover it up. The second year, Pet had asked again, and Feng Zhao had used his military service as an excuse to reject it. This year, Pet still did not give up. This time, they had finally waited for Feng Zhao's approval. Pet was very excited to get the permission. Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Feng, for giving us this opportunity. You can supervise from the side during the checkup. May I know when you have time? Either today or tomorrow is fine. Feng Zhao replied. You can choose the location of the file. It can be at your home, or you can send it to our Yenzhou branch. It is in Qian City, not far. At home, Feng Zhao did not want to send Curly Hair to Pet's Yenzhou branch. It was more passive in someone else's territory.
It was better to choose at home.
Okay, please give us your address. We will send people over today. Don't worry, our pet has been around for 200 years. We have a good reputation. Without permission, we will definitely not steal the genetic information of a pet. After making the call, Feng Zhao was about to go offline when he heard the other side say, Please wait a moment. Mr. Feng, we would also like to ask if your other pet is also willing to be put on the file by Pet? That sea slug? Feng Zhao asked. Yes, yes. It is that sea slug with extraterrestrial genes. May I ask if you'll allow our staff to put it on file? Please be at ease. We have professional appraisers from headquarters. They will definitely not harm its health. There are also veterinarians. In the past, these kinds of creatures with extraterrestrial genes could only be brought into Earth through research labs that had obtained permission. In recent years, the restrictions had been relaxed, but they still had to show all sorts of proof, and the procedures were cumbersome. Thus, even though the restrictions had been relaxed, there were still not many cases of pets with extraterrestrial genes being raised. It was precisely because of the uniqueness of its extraterrestrial genes that Pet had set its sights on it. Feng Zhao thought about it and said, Sure. Thank you very much for your trust. Our appraisers will immediately set off for Yenzhou's Qian City. In a while, I will send you their information. 2 minutes later, Pet had decided on the personnel to be sent to Yenzhou. 5 people. 2 veterinarians. 1 specialized in treating dogs, and the other specialized in treating sea slugs. 2 professional archivists and a photographer. To prevent people from impersonating them, Pet had sent Feng Zhao the looks, employee numbers, and contact details of these 5 people. Pet headquarters was in Immerse. The 5 people would directly fly over from Merzu by flying transport. Zuoyu and Yanbiao were very curious when they found out that someone would be coming to set up a file on curly hair in the afternoon.
They really did not understand this aspect.
After searching online, they had originally thought that curly hair's net worth would be in the top 3, but they had not expected that on the pet rankings, the top 10 pets in the entire world were all worth more than 100 million. At the top of the list was a lion. It was said that it was one of the 5 lions that had been successfully bred when the laboratory had resurrected creatures from the old era. Now, the other 4 were in Huangzhou zoos. Only that one had been bought as a pet. Someone who could get such a lion as a pet was surely not ordinary. Estimated value: 300 million? It's just a lion from the old era. 300 million. Yanbiao felt that this was inconceivable. Curly hair could still participate in competitions. His net worth of over 100 million had been earned in Muzhou. What about this number 1? What could it do? How could it be worth 300 million? Zuoyu did not find it hard to accept. Rare things are valued. There are only 5 of them in the entire world. Furthermore, there are regulations to revive creatures from the old era, and there are limits to the number of such large beasts. Besides, in terms of commercial value, to prevent their value from depreciating, I reckon there will not be many more in the future. And curly hair is a dog. No matter how many championships he has won, in everyone's eyes, he is still a dog. Dogs are not rare species.
Then what about him?
Yanbiao pointed to the water tank in Fang Zhao's study. That rabbit in there has extraterrestrial genes. There is only one in the entire world. If we appraise it according to your standards, wouldn't it be worth 500 million? Chapter 279. In the afternoon, the 5 people that Pet had arranged to come over arrived. After presenting their identification and verifying their information, the 5 people walked into the house expectantly. However, they were stopped by Zuoyu and Yanbiao as soon as they entered the house. "Excuse me, but can you open your suitcases and take a look?" Zuoyu had a formal smile on his face as he watched the 5 people walk in. Yanbiao also had a solemn expression. They could finally play the role of bodyguards. When strangers came to the boss's house, it was indeed necessary to check their suitcases. Most people with status and reputation did this. They had originally thought that these 5 people would express their dissatisfaction, but unexpectedly, the person walking in front handed the suitcase to them without any hesitation. The password is 666. After saying that, he quickly entered the house and did not even spare Zuoyu and Yanbiao a glance. His gaze was like a radar as he searched. Whereas little darling, he looked as if he was eager to see his precious darling and dragged out his words. Zuoyu and Yanbiao felt a chill and got goosebumps. Especially that "of" at the end of the sentence, which made Yanbiao want to beat someone up. If anyone in the outpost team had dared to say such things, he would have greeted them with a fist. However, this was not the army, so he had to get used to it. The corners of Yanbiao's mouth twitched as he cursed in his heart. He checked the equipment the other party had brought along to see if they had smuggled any hidden cameras or the like. However, he also paid some attention to the 5 people walking into the house. They had to be cautious at all times and maintain a sense of danger. It was their duty as bodyguards to guard against people other than the boss. Although the 4 people behind were a step slower, they also took the initiative to put down their suitcases and open them. They had encountered this kind of situation too many times. It was all too normal. The few of them looked curiously at Curly Hair, who had just run out of the study. "This is that golden competition dog? Indeed extraordinary. Look at this fur. Look at those lively eyes. They're so beautiful." Another person also clicked his tongue and praised. Zuoyu and Yanbiao, who were checking the other party's suitcases, were puzzled. They had been by Fang Zhao's side for so long and had seen Curly Hair for so long. Although he had the halo of golden competition dog, it shouldn't be this exaggerated, right? These people were flattering him to his face, but they couldn't just brag. However, Curly Hair wasn't friendly towards these strangers. He bared his teeth and growled when he was within 3 steps of them. This was a warning. This wasn't the first time these people had come into contact with dogs. They could tell what a dog was thinking from its various behaviors. They stopped 3 steps away from Curly Hair and observed. Seeing Feng Zhao come out, the youth in the lead immediately put on a warm and friendly smile. Nice to meet you, Mr. Feng. I am Hua Caning, the one responsible for bringing the team over to establish the records of your 2 pets. You can also call me Hua. This is my partner, Mudo. And these few. Hua Caning introduced his partner, veterinarian, and cameraman to Feng Zhao. After exchanging pleasantries, he did not beat around the bush and got straight to the point. To them, there was nothing more attractive than a pet, even if the one standing in front of them was a hot topic on the internet. Can we start the file now? Hua Caning asked. Feng Zhao did not know that Hua Caning's evaluation of him was fresh meat. Hearing Hua Caning's question, he nodded and said, Sure. Can we examine it closer? What Hua Caning meant was that they needed to come into contact with the body of the pet and hoped that Feng Zhao, the owner, would cooperate. Feng Zhao glanced at Curly Hair, who was squatting there, and said, It's fine. He doesn't bite now. Not biting now did not mean that he wouldn't bite at any time. Hua Caning and the others were all veterans and could tell this. Furthermore, whether a dog would bite or not, they could use their eyes and experience to judge. However, seeing Curly Hair standing there obediently and cooperating with the examination, Hua Caning and the others could not be bothered with anything else. Their eyes glowed as they stared at Curly Hair, picked up their toolbox, and put on a thin layer of gloves. Mudo had already turned on the electronic tablet and started recording the information. Name, Curly Hair? Hua Caning looked at Feng Zhao. Confirmed? Seeing Feng Zhao nod, Mudo noted it down on the form. In their hearts, Hua Caning and the others did not approve of this ordinary name. However, the one who decided on the pet's name was still the owner. Even if they had objections, they could only keep it to themselves. Build, small. Hua Caning looked at Curly Hair seriously as he reported the information that needed to be recorded. Curly Hair's back height was just over 40 centimeters. In the old era, he could barely be considered a medium-sized dog. However, in the new era, where the average height of dogs was over 80 centimeters, he could only be considered a small dog. This was also why people in Muzhou had not thought that Curly Hair was a shepherd dog when they first saw him. In Muzhou, adult shepherd dogs had not been this small. One of the reasons many people in Muzhou felt ashamed was that Muzhou had so many shepherd dogs, but they had actually been trampled by this tiny little thing. Hua Caning continued to report some information that Feng Zhao had already told them. Gender, male. Date of birth, unknown. Breed, unknown. Age, 3 to 5 years old. Working dog. After all, Curly Hair was a stray dog that had been picked up from the black streets, so a lot of the information was not detailed. Although the age was not detailed, they could roughly estimate it based on the physical examination data from Muzhou. It could not be more than 5 years old. In the new era, not only did humans age longer, dogs were the same. Therefore, a 5-year-old dog could not be considered middle-aged. It was still young. Hobby? Hua Caning asked Feng Zhao. Games, Feng Zhao replied. Hua Caning looked at a toy dog ball in the corner of the room and understood. This was indeed a dog that loved sports. Even though it could not herd sheep on the pasture, it could still interact with its owner every day, playing games like catching a frisbee or catching a ball. Fur color. Hua Caning carefully reached out and stroked the fur on Curly Hair's back, observing Curly Hair's emotional reaction. Fur color? It's gray, and it's not even gray, Yan Biao said. In his heart, he thought, the fur color is not pure, and I can't see any regular patterns. It feels a little messy. However, his choice of words just now was considered refined, right? However, the 5 people from Pet looked at Yan Biao as if they were looking at a country bumpkin and continued to record information. Gray gradation. The bottom layer of fur is gray to silver gray. Back, ears, tail, and the tips of the coat are dark gray. Hua Caning reported the information that needed to be recorded. Muto recorded everything on a spreadsheet, from the top of the nose to the tip of the tail to the bottom of the paws. Curly Hair was very cooperative. When he was told to stand up, he would stand up and lie down. During this process, Caning evaluated in his heart, still considered docile. After a series of simple checks and records, Caning said, "Let's test his bite strength." Before they had set off from the headquarters, they had sent Feng Zhao a spreadsheet with many information input and inspection options listed on it. Feng Zhao would choose those that were willing to be inspected, so that they could bring their own equipment. Right now, they were just following the few options that Feng Zhao had agreed on. The veterinarian has already checked his teeth, but the bite strength test can reflect the condition of his chewing system. "Let's see his oral health," Caning said as he took out a pressure tester from a box. It was a small stick that looked like a dog toy. At one end of the stick was a bone-shaped tester that carried a scent that made dogs excited. Actually, with current technology, one did not need to directly touch the teeth to roughly measure the theoretical condition of the bite strength. However, the people from Pet like to use a more primitive method of testing, baiting them into biting and then using the tester's force measuring sensor to record the data. When Caning and the others were not paying attention, Feng Zhao raised his hand and gestured for Curly Hair to restrain himself a little. The tester's scent indeed made Curly Hair excited, and he bit down. 601 kilograms. Caning exclaimed when he saw the data. The others were also astonished. A small pet dog with a bite strength of 601 kilograms? A human's bite strength was only a few dozen kilograms. Pet dogs from the old era could at most have a bite strength of over 100 kilograms. During the period of destruction, because of the mutation of dog breeds and the changes in the living environment, survival had become more brutal. There were dogs with a bite strength of 500 to 600 kilograms, and there were quite a few of them. There were also dogs with even higher data. But now, 500 years had passed since the period of destruction. Even if the genes had continued, the living environment had become more peaceful and comfortable. Food had also changed, and after 500 years, the average bite strength had dropped to 200 to 300 kilograms. Other than some special dogs used for work, it was really rare to encounter a dog with a bite strength of 600 kilograms. And since the founding of Pet, this was the first small domestic dog to reach this value. Could it be a mistake in the test?
Muto asked.
Wait a moment. Let me calibrate it, and we will test it again. Caning had a doubtful expression. He remembered that he had calibrated the tester before he had come. There had been no problems with the tester. How could it have measured such a value? After calibrating, Caning smiled at Curly Hair and said, "Come, darling, let's test it again." Yen Biao, who was standing at the side, thought to himself, "Didn't you call him Little Darling when we first entered the room? Where's Little?" The tester had just reached Curly Hair's mouth when Curly Hair bit down. And at the moment he bit down, there seemed to be an ominous glint in his eyes. Crack. The tester let out a crisp sound. It did not break, but it showed that it could not record any data. In other words, this tester had been bitten and broken. Gasps could be heard in the room. Caning and the other four were clear about the quality of their company's tester. Even if they had only brought a low-grade tester for bite strength, it did not mean that the quality was poor. How much strength did it take to break the tester? Or perhaps the tester was already broken. But was that possible? Saying that there was a problem with their pet tester was simply like doubting the quality of Fiery Bird's game consoles. Muto froze there, not knowing how to record it. Disregarding whether the teeth and muscles could withstand this sort of bite strength to break the tester, this kind of bite strength was enough to make one tremble in fear. Caning wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. He had been very close. When Curly Hair had bitten the tester, he had felt a chill all over his body and could not help but swallow his saliva. He had suddenly felt as if he had been too close to the dog. Meanwhile, the vet who had just checked Curly Hair's teeth felt goosebumps all over his arms. His back felt cold, and his fingers twitched uncomfortably. When he had been checking Curly Hair's teeth, his fingers had even touched Curly Hair's teeth. Although the tester had broken the second time, in that brief moment, He had seen the data shoot past 1,000. However, before the data had stabilized, the tester had broken. With this kind of bite strength, if curly hair had bitten down viciously, it would have been child's play for those harmless shepherd dogs in Muzhou to kill 7 or 8 large dogs. When he thought about how curly hair had participated in 2 sheep herding competitions in Muzhou, he broke out in cold sweat for those Muzhou sheep and dogs. He had never heard of any bloody incidents over there, but had this dog really not bitten anything before? Not to mention sheep and dogs. Even on a larger scale, biting a human to death would be a piece of cake. A human's bones would break with a single bite. Luckily, curly hair was small. If he had been a little bigger, it would have been even more dangerous. Then, do we still want to test him? I still have a spare tester in my box, but it's an old model and not meant for dogs. It might not be accurate, a vet said. A tester not meant for dogs wouldn't be able to measure the data. Without the scent to guide it, they would not know if the dog had bitten down hard. He seems a little impatient, Wakaning said. He realized that curly hair really didn't like the tester and was a little moody. Could it be that he didn't like the smell on it? The person who had made the tester had even said that all dogs liked it. Indeed, it was all a scam. Yan Biao and Zuiyu exchanged glances and were secretly delighted. Great, now he doesn't even say obedient anymore. Was he scared? Not just Wakaning and the others, even Yan Biao and Zuiyu had been shocked today. They had never known that curly hair could bite so well. As for whether to continue testing, the decision was up to the owner, Feng Zhao. Wakaning and the others also looked at Feng Zhao. The room fell silent. Feng Zhao broke the silence. Record the results of the first test. The data will not be displayed to the public. All right, Wakaning said. Their goal was not to obtain accurate data. As long as the first test data was real and the equipment had no quality problems, that was all. They would not delve too deeply into the reasons behind it. Ever since Pet had been founded, they had come across all sorts of strange and astonishing pets. Thus, even though they were shocked by curly hair's biting strength, after some thought, they felt that it was nothing much. If he wasn't a little special, how could he stir up trouble in Muzhou and force the other side to change their rules? How could he be worthy of the title Golden Competition Dog? Exceeding the average was a given. Wakaning took a deep breath and gestured to Mudo. Chapter 280. After sorting out curly hair's files, Wakaning's spirits were lifted. Come, let's go take a look at the other one. Although they had been frightened by curly hair, they still had another important target on this trip, and their editorial department was especially concerned about it. That sea slug with extraterrestrial genes was the first one since the start of the magazine, so they had to put in more effort. Beautiful. So beautiful. Wakaning looked at the pure white rabbit in the water tank. Its appearance is actually quite different from that of a ragdoll. After all, there's only half of the shredded hair disc gene. There's definitely a difference, Mudo said. Begin. Wakaning took out a pair of gloves from his toolbox. There were sensors on the gloves that would transmit all sorts of detection data after coming into contact with the sea slug. Of course, there were other ways to test it, but Wakaning chose to touch it with gloves because he wanted to touch it with his own hands. Feng Zhao had already shown them the information on this sea slug. The information was even more detailed, so there was no need to ask too much. However, what about the name? Mudo looked at the blank space behind the name and asked. I didn't take it, Feng Zhao replied. Feng Zhao's reply stunned Wakaning and the others. Most ornamental fish or freshwater or saltwater ornamental pets were not named, but there was only one in the entire world. From their point of view, this sea slug was much more precious than curly hair, and it could even emit light. It could not be treated as an ordinary ornamental pet. Let's give it a name. It's the only one in the world, Wakaning suggested. Feng Zhao thought about it and felt that it made sense. This sea slug was actually very intelligent. It would be good to give it a name. Call him Big White, Feng Zhao replied. He's so small and he's called Dubai. Also, a few days ago, we went to create a file for a newly bred great white shark. The owner also called the great white shark Big White. Mudo disagreed. Then let's call him Little White, Fang Zhao said. It's so big, yet it's called Xiaobai. Hua Kaining disagreed again. Although there are quite a few sea slugs that are as big as this, just based on the species of the shredded hair disc, it's already considered big. Even if it's a mutant with alien genes, it's still very big. Yan Biao curled his lips. So much nonsense. However, the one in the water tank, in terms of size, could still be taken out and stewed in a pot, unlike the other native shredded hair sea slugs, which weren't even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. Of course, Yan Biao knew that he could only think about it. This thing was poisonous, and he wouldn't eat it even if he was told to. Actually, Hua Kaining and the others were not looking for trouble. Their original intention was to let Fang Zhao think about it a little more and come up with a grander name, unlike Curly Hair, who sounded like a random name. A dog worth over 100 million was called Curly Hair. Their hearts ached when they heard this. Looking at the pure white, soft-looking rabbit in the water tank, Hua Kaining felt his heart ache again. Bunny is so cute. How can it be given such a vulgar name? However, no matter how much he felt about it, it was still someone else's pet, and the final decision was still up to the owner. Hua Kaining could only keep his opinions to himself. Then we'll call it Spiky Hair. The thorn of a hedgehog, the rabbit of a rabbit, Fang Zhao said. Hua Kaining wanted to persuade Fang Zhao to change it again.
This name did not sound right.
Those who did not know the truth might think that it was born from a hedgehog and a rabbit. However, they had already rejected 2 names, so it would be impolite for them to reject the name that the host had given them. For a moment, the room fell silent again. Zuiyu suddenly said, "There seems to be an animal called a spiky rabbit in ancient stories." Fang Zhao corrected him. "That's called a red mantis. It's the name of a horse." Zuiyu said, "Right, that horse is a red rabbit. So, since a horse can be called a rabbit, so can a sea slug. I think that the name boss just came up with is very good," Zuiyu said. Fang Zhao had wanted to explain, but after thinking about it, he decided not to waste any more time. He would let Zuiyu do his own research after this was over. Yan Biao, who was standing at the side, thought to himself, Zuiyu is such a bootlicker. Yan Biao recalled what Zuiyu had said to him on his first day as a bodyguard. A qualified bodyguard does not need to be smart, but he definitely needs to be loyal and simple to carry out. Whatever boss says is right. With this thought, Yan Biao's heart trembled, and he hurriedly seconded. That's right. Something with a rabbit might not necessarily be a rabbit, and something with a thorn might not necessarily be a hedgehog. Calling it a spiky rabbit has a deep impression. I also think it's very good. If boss said this was a rabbit, then it would be called a rabbit. Furthermore, it looked like a rabbit. Hua Kaining despised. These 2 bodyguards are really lackeys. Seeing Mudo look at him, Hua Kaining gritted his teeth and nodded.
So, be it a spiky rabbit.
What else could it be? Seeing that the name had been decided, Hua Kaining stared at the water tank and sighed in his heart. Baby, this is as far as I can help you. At least it doesn't need to have the same name as a great white shark. What are its hobbies? Mudo asked Fang Zhao. Eating, Fang Zhao replied. Any additional information? Mudo asked again. It can eat a lot.
Got it.
After the name was decided, Mudo supplemented the information provided by Fang Zhao. Meanwhile, Hua Kaining prepared to touch the sea slug and let the sensors on his gloves record some data. After putting on gloves for both hands, he checked that there was nothing wrong with the gloves and that they weren't leaking. Then he reached into the water tank. He was about to touch the world's first hybrid sea slug with extraterrestrial genes. Hua Kaining was overwhelmed with emotions as he stared fixedly at the sea slug inside. It's very venomous. You have to be careful, Fang Zhao reminded him again. You have to believe that we are professionals. This time, we even wore thicker gloves and our sensors have been upgraded. We are well prepared, so don't worry. Before Hua Kaining could finish speaking, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his palm.
Ah.
Hua Caning let out a blood-curdling scream. The gloves emitted a beeping alarm, but everything had happened too quickly. Hua Caning simply had no time to react before he was hit. Hua Caning quickly pulled his hand out of the water tank and removed the gloves. He discovered that his entire palm was swollen like a bear. Mudo could not be bothered to record the information. Seeing Hua Caning's arms swelling up at a speed visible to the naked eye, he nearly squealed in fright. "Doctor, I've been poisoned," Hua Caning screamed. Another veterinarian who had come along was a specialist in treating sea slugs and treating people who had been stung by sea slugs. Now that something had happened, he reacted quickly and retrieved all sorts of medicine and diagnostic tools from his medical kit. When Hua Caning had first removed the gloves, it had only been his palm that was swollen. Now it had spread to his entire arm. Am I going to have to amputate?" Hua Caning's entire body was trembling, and every word that came out of his mouth sounded like it was going to fall apart. He only felt a burning pain in his entire arm, and his palm had already lost all feeling. After seeing the condition of Hua Caning's arm, the veterinarian's solemn expression relaxed a little. "No need, there's no danger to his life. Spray some medicine, and the swelling will subside in a while." "There's still a while?" Hua Caning's face was pale. It was unknown whether it was because of the poison or the shock. Beside him, Mudo and the others were also astonished. They knew that this was an upgraded version of the medicine that was used to treat the shaggy hairplate sea slug. Spraying it on a regular basis would subside the swelling, but now it was actually telling them that it would take a while? How long was a while? A few minutes? A few hours? Really fine? Hua Caning was apprehensive. "It's fine," the veterinarian said. Although he could not confirm exactly how long it would take for the swelling to subside, he could at least confirm that it was not serious. It just looked scary. Isn't it wearing thickened gloves? Why was it still stung? Mudo was puzzled. Furthermore, this poison is too strong. You don't usually feed it poisonous food, right? "Mr. Fong, I wonder if you could take a look at this sea slug's food," the veterinarian asked.
Sure.
Fong Zhao took out the food from the cabinet below and handed it over. "It's not poisonous." The veterinarian laughed awkwardly.
"I know. I'm not doubting you."
Actually, he also knew that it was probably not a problem with the food. It was more likely due to extraterrestrial genes that caused the toxicity to be different from the shaggy hairplate species they were familiar with. "Thinking of something?" the veterinarian asked. "I heard that when you were still on planet Baiji, Lijo's senior Master Zero's bodyguard was stung by it." "That did happen," Fong Zhao said. The veterinarian nodded. Looking at it this way, it seemed that Fong Zhao had really been merciful today. If he had not worn thickened gloves, if Fong Zhao had not fed it this kind of mild food but something slightly poisonous, Hua Caning reckoned that it would not just be his arm that was swollen. It was extremely likely that his life would be in danger. Hua Caning opened his mouth to say something, but he swallowed his words. His other hand that had not been stung gestured at Mudo. Mudo wrote down the remarks on the Spiky Rabbit's file. High risk. In their file, high risk was short for high risk. As for the veterinarian, he picked up the glove that had been stung, his heart full of doubts. How could this kind of specialized glove be pierced so easily? Watching from the side, the sea slug's fur in the water tank was rather soft, but when Hua Caning had touched it, its fur had stood up. While it had been on guard, it had also displayed aggression. But it had not pierced through the glove. Why exactly? "Mr. Fong, may I ask what kind of gloves you usually wear when you touch it?" the veterinarian asked. Fong Zhao took out the gloves from the cabinet below. They were the very ordinary gloves sold at ornamental seawater pet shops. He had asked Professor Denzel, the Spiky Rabbit's breeder, and these gloves could be used, but only by himself. He had also mentioned these things to Hua Caning before. Hua Caning felt wronged. He had only let down his guard after seeing the gloves Fong Zhao had given him. The gloves Fong Zhao wore were so thin, while they wore these specially made thickened gloves. They should have been 100% safe, yet they had been stung. The veterinarian looked at the extremely fine holes on the glove that Hua Caning had removed and could not understand. In the end, he could only explain it as extraterrestrial genes. No wonder so many extraterrestrial breeds were strictly prohibited from entering the country. It was really dangerous. Muto added super fierce after the high risk on the spiky rabbits file. 10 minutes later, Wakaning could feel his palm again, but his entire arm was still swollen and burning with pain. It was rather unbearable. They could only speed up the filing process and did not ask any more questions. After the cameraman took the pictures, the few of them took their leave. They still had to rush to the hospital. For Wakaning's arm to completely reduce the swelling, he still needed some other medication. It would not be good to delay it for too long. When the next issue of Pet comes out, we will have an evaluation of your 2 pets. Mr. Fong, please remember to pay attention. Before leaving, Wakaning stopped in his tracks and turned around to face Fong Zhao. Also, Mr. Fong, I suggest you hang a sign on the door as a reminder. Usually, when it comes to pets with extremely high destructive power like yours, it is best to warn the surrounding neighbors or visitors to prevent any unnecessary incidents from happening. When curly hair is taken out, remember to put him on a leash. The leash must be the sturdiest kind. Fong Zhao accepted Wakaning's suggestion. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.